This is going to be a conversation you're going to want to be a part of tonight. This is Comic News Weekly. And boy, this comic community needs some healing. You're not going to want to miss out on tonight's Comic News Weekly. We're going to talk AMC, Walking Dead, the SAG-AFTRA deal they did, and where we are going to talk about the comic community. We've got a large panel that's going to be hanging out with us tonight, so you don't want to miss out on this. Everybody loves a difficult start to a show, right? That's why you tune in live. That's why you watch the replay. It's unscripted. It's raw. It's real. It's uncanny, maybe even a little bit. Well, let's start welcoming the panel. Like we talked about, we want to talk about the comic community and some of the things that are happening there and why we feel, or at least I feel, and I'm challenging tonight's guest panelists, why I feel like the comic community is still not in a healthy place. So you're going to compare it to some times in the years past. We're going to compare it to pre-COVID and a little bit post-COVID. But more importantly, we're going to discuss what we can do going forward to help, to band together, to be a part, to be a community. What does it mean to be a community, and how do we play a positive role in that? That's really what we want to discuss a little bit about tonight. But let's get into this panel. Without further ado, we laid it out. The open mic night. We had quite the response from a lot of people. And I cannot wait to see what everybody has to say tonight. And without further ado, we got to give credit where credit is due to the crew that's been to the Mighty Blue, to the, yes, we'll keep on trying to play the Legends theme there. Legend brother, we still miss you. But yeah, without further ado, we've got the man, the myth, the bearded legend who is not drowned, who is doing okay, and his family is doing okay. Again, happy belated birthday to the Bryan McClay.
Oh, thank you, brother. Yeah, we had a crazy flash flood out here from monsoons. The monsoon decided to dump on all of us at once. So
I couldn't believe some of the stuff I was seeing on social media. And then thankfully, what I didn't know, I learned something new about through all this about the Vegas area are the waterways and the systems they have built in to protect people in their homes.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, man. That's how the desert is out here. We need more of that. So we'll see. We'll see if winter can be another record wet winter.
Winter is coming.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to laugh at you. But yeah, it's like Comic News Weekly. So that means, again, still the great Bryan from SimpleMan's Comics has taken an indefinite hiatus for now while he works on some things at home and is going to be welcome back at any point in time. And he'll let us know when he has that time available. But you know who's still here, who hasn't missed a beat? Rhynoverse.
Biggity bow.
Big biggity bow.
That's in the old little Bryan intro action there. Yep. So the rain and floods. Now, last time I went to Vegas, I stayed at a buddy's house out there. And it was like what, like 172 or something like that. It's 172, 173 degrees, not real hot. And it started hailing out of nowhere, which was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And it wasn't like small hail, it was like ginormous hail. And it came down like hard. He had a pool and it just like everything just splashing in the pool, going nuts. That was pretty crazy. Now here in the old Texas area, it hasn't rained here in like 3 months almost. And as soon as it's a drought going on. But having a new fence put in, and they decided to go ahead and pour the concrete for the post. And guess what? That's the way you call rain, because a torrential downpour after they poured the concrete for the post, a torrential downpour happens at that moment. It was amazing. So, but the new fence survived, and it's there, and it's ready to block the dogs from pooping in other people's yards.
I got to do the same thing. We got a new dog recently. Hey, same format as normal. We've got 2 topics, one a little more difficult than the other. We're kind of budgeting about 10-15 minutes for the AMC SAG-AFTRA deal that we'll start off with. But I've already been hearing some great chatter in the background with all the other guest hosts tonight, and we want to involve them in that SAG-AFTRA AMC content as well. So we're just going to, without missing a beat here, start getting everybody else in. And it's been a hot minute since we've been able to hang out with this one. The busiest man on the block, the family man, the Ted Lasso of the comic book community. We've got ourselves John's Comics with Kids.
King of the intros here. You're doing it, man. What's going on, brother?
So that's the problem. I gotta keep going. If I miss a beat, then next thing you know, it's gonna be 20 minutes worth of intros.
You're doing
He
all right.
goes on
5 minutes
repeat.
in, 5 minutes in, 3 guests on. You're doing okay. You just keep grinding.
I'm gonna keep telling myself that, brother. We miss you. How are you doing?
It's been a hot minute, man. It's so good to see you and hang out with you again.
And that's why that's something important. We'll touch bases on with the comic community kind of aspect going on further. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Of course.
Speaking of the comic book community, somebody that I've gotten to spend some time with recently and really enjoy his content over on his channel is the Comic Viking. What is up, brother?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Brother from another mother, how you been?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I'm here streaming while my fiance is playing Zelda in the background there.
Nice.
Couldn't you be playing the
That's
video?
awesome.
Huh?
Couldn't you be playing the video games?
No.
Everybody
No,
wins in this scenario, I feel
That's
like.
them.
Yeah.
It does. Everybody
Okay.
wins. It's great.
That's fair. And when it comes to, and I hope there's no offense taken in this, when it comes to new comic community members, we got to bring in Izzyverse NYC because you've been on the scene hot and heavy for what, almost a year now?
Yeah, year and a half, man. Just reading my TV guide.
TV guy.
TV guide? You have a TV guide?
Yeah, look at that thing. No, this is old.
Is that old?
Yeah, it's old.
Oh.
But I have a special offer for 3 free Ultimate Spider-Man comic books. Just call this number.
Hey,
Wow,
let me
that's
get that
pretty
number
cool.
down. Let me get
I'm
the
still
number
on hold. I'm still on hold trying to make sure that they kill Robin. I'm still on hold waiting.
Do not send cash.
Do not send
I wonder what those books were.
I don't know. But this is part of a collector's set, so I actually have the whole
That's
set. So Bagley, Alex Ross. I'm trying to remember who the other guys are, but those. I think Vermedia is another one. John Vermedia Senior and Junior. So I think those are the 4.
Now you're going to make me want to look through all the TV guides I find at flea markets because I
Dude,
didn't
I
know
got
there were
so many.
comic ads in those
Yeah,
things.
now
So,
apparently.
so if it's a comic book related TV guide, I picked it up and I just kept it. But I didn't, it's not like I put it in a bag and board. I just, you know what I mean?
So you have like boxes and boxes of TV guides?
No, not even close.
Not yet.
Not that I can see anything different than than comics, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because I
What's
have
on-
boxes
what's
and
on-
boxes of comics.
I just want to know
And
what's on
cards.
Tuesdays at 8. Like, tell us Tuesday.
Oh,
Give me the Tuesday at 8 lineup.
Tuesday at 8 lineup. I'm not gonna lie, man. I love TV Guide. So
I just love the
we got the
retro.
two.
of it.
We got the 2-hour 100th episode of that 70 shows
70
happening,
show. There you go.
which I
Wow.
actually have been rewatching lately. So
Good one.
I love that 70 show. Fraser Cheers reunion.
Wow.
And don't forget Scrubs.
Yes.
Scrubs.
Yes. No, Scrubs. That's so good. Perfect.
Okay.
That's all I needed.
But there is one that you got to see. I think it's for Thursday or something like that. And I saw it. I was like, oh, you guys would like this one. Let's see here. Celebrating 25 years of Star Wars.
Oof.
Wow.
Never before seen on network television. Return of the Jedi. All new. APN, Fox 5.
Totally different version of the movie. Yeah. You will not recognize it.
There you go. So there you have it. Yeah,
Nice.
You gotta love TV Guide, man. I couldn't wait for TV Guide. That was my new comic book day. TV Guide Friday.
That was when 780p was first introduced, right? Was that Star Wars?
Sounds about right.
Or just HD of some type?
Just HD of any type.
No. It was in stereo. Where
Oh.
available.
Yeah. Stereo where available.
High five.
They play it straight off the laser disc.
There you go.
But you got to like flip it over and then rotate a new disc in and then flip that one over.
Oh man.
Bryan with the hits. So we'll follow the usual format. We'll make sure that we're hitting up the chat as the chat comes in. We'll probably stop and grab a couple of comments from there. But I mean, without further ado, we're going to jump right in. It's 9 minutes. We've already jumped right in. But I thought this was really interesting. We'll start off with the AMC SAG-AFTRA deal, or quote air quotes deal. And I'll just bring it right up on the screen. I didn't realize that there were actual companies that were able to make progress with SAG-AFTRA. But the most important thing that I was kind of thinking about when I looked at this is I can't find anywhere in any of the news articles that state what AMC concessions AMC made or changes that they made, whether it be better pay or better hours or better, what do they call that? Residuals. Like residuals is the one that's talked about a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're right.
was this AMC, basically my question to you guys, is this AMC just kind of slipping under the gun to make sure that they're keeping their Walking Dead universe on track? Or did they actually commit to making positive change?
They had to at least agree to the what SAG-AFTRA is asking for these 3 shows, or they wouldn't be doing it. So it's on a short-term basis, it looks like.
Yeah,
but they had to agree.
There's also you also have to keep in mind AMC is still a cable channel with an on-demand service, but it's not paid for. So they're not receiving money in the same way as streamers.
Oh, so, you mean not like YouTube streamers, but like Disney Plus streaming service?
No,
right?
Or yeah, Netflix. Like Disney Plus, all those are streamers. Yeah. So yeah. the big issue that the strike is really causing is streaming rights, where AMC is
and
not
AI, right?
Yeah, and AI is a big component of that, but they're not. They're really not. They have nothing to do with that streaming part, because of what they do is they're more on demand for their televised shows anyway. So, like USA. So you'll probably end up seeing more deals from other cable channels that might come through. AMC just happens to be one of the first.
Well, I think because they have so many things like the Norman Reedus show, solo show, things that are like coming up real soon.
Yeah, they're good to go.
They're in real danger without allowing those actors to go and promote these shows, without being able to finish production on some of these shows. If they don't come up with a deal, they were behind the gun a little.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, so the interesting thing is that they might not have to sign long-term deals if they just keep doing these short-term deals. Why don't they just switch to the short-term deals?
Would make more sense.
I think for a lot of them, they will. Until something is figured out, like Izzy was saying, between these big streaming companies. That's what everybody has to hold out and wait for. Is what does the final agreement between a company like Netflix and SAG look like?
Who's the guy from Breaking Bad? What's that guy's name?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, I saw Cranston at a strike, and the big thing he was talking about was the AI.
Sure.
And how all the actors are now super scared about the AI because they're using those self-audition tapes.
Yep.
To basically, steal every likeness and everything about them using AI, which is super scary.
Totally.
Super scary.
Yeah, so. the other aspect of it is like everybody's, when they're talking about the actors and the writers, you have the big time actors. They're not worried. They don't have issues. But that only takes 5% of all the actors in it, right? In the guild. So 95% of these actors are extras. They're the guys you see in when you watch an HR video. They're the guys from commercials. Yeah, it's Billy from accounting. He's striking, right? So it's all that. So these people don't make. They really don't make that much money. An actor's wage is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's extremely low. It's really bad. And what's happening is because, just like the AI issue, is that I record a scene with you. Because I have the capabilities to use your likeness, I will be able to utilize it multiple times. 1, without your permission, and 2, even well past your,
So this is kind of like what Disney and Lucasfilm face with the deep fake stuff then, right?
It's even worse because you don't even have to record a scene with somebody. You can just do send in an audition tape. All actors, new acting is different. You don't usually go audition in front of somebody. You sit in front of your computer like this. You read the script, you audition in front of the script. You might have a green screen behind you, and nobody ever sees it usually. Well, they can take all that data and instantly create their extras with it. They don't
Their
have to pay
argument,
anybody
yeah,
ever.
their argument is that you're freely sending this to them so they can use it however they wish. Inversely, they could shoot, let's say they wanted to shoot a bunch of extras against a green screen one day, then they can use that in perpetuity. They can just basically say, hey, we need a crowd. Let's go to the archives, throw these people in the background. We don't have to pay them again. No payment. And I wanted to throw in a couple of stats that I think are kind of interesting. I know I'm a teacher, so I'm clearly a union guy in some ways, but like 7% of SAG make more than 80,000 a year, just 7%.
That's it.
Yeah. 14% make it 26,000. And that's where you qualify for health insurance as a SAG. So only 14% of actors can get health insurance as an actor.
So 7% plus 7% equals that's where they're at. 14% total of
14. Yeah. So 7% can make 80 grand a year or more. 14% can make 26,000 or more, meaning 86%, right, would be the left. 86% make less than 26,000 a year and don't qualify for health insurance.
Before you move away from that $26,000 number, does anybody remember what the national poverty line is right now? It's like 30.
Yeah,
I could.
I could tell you that number because I work in the company that we do that.
So
I'm going to give you the exact number of what the self-support reserve is. So the self-support reserve is what's known as the amount that is that's the poverty line, right? So if you make less than this amount, you are considered the low income.
So just to add context to what John's numbers are, the poverty line's at what? 33, 34?
33 is the number. I'm going to get you the exact number because I do have that number.
Okay. Go ahead and finish.
But if you're saying 86% of actors make less than 26,000 and don't qualify for any kind of insurance, these deals are based on these residuals and these that's the way that they can bump those numbers up. And it's just they're trying to get away with. I'm never going to have to pay them again to come in and be an extra and any of this stuff.
So the federal poverty level is $14,580. Right? So think about that. That's double that amount, but that's still nothing. Think about it. If you work a wage and if you work full time at, let's say, a McDonald's, for example, you are probably making $30,000, less than $30,000. So so really what's going on with these actors, they're usually paid for hire. So they're not. It's not even like you have a full time job. You are literally doing a job as their job. So they're mostly independent contracting that's going on here. But at the same time, that means they're doing a gig that, as they call it, and then they're going to work in, Olive Garden serving people. What I mean? They just don't make that kind of money.
Yeah, they have to.
And that's the majority. That's not
for sure.
That's not the minority. That's the majority.
Yeah, and just to throw a round number at that, about $15 an hour will put you in almost the $31,000 range before you
think about that.
I would say it's a super majority, not just the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So you're talking about like the 80% and up.
So so 80% of the SAG actors that are on strike make below the poverty level.
Correct.
That really puts it into kind of a gut wrenching kind of. That's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, even harder for the people that are working in that.
Well, that's in United States. So there's every other state has a self-support reserve. So I'm from New York State. In New York State, the self-support is actually higher than 14,000, which is it's 19,000, right? Because living in New York is not easy. So think about someplace like Hawaii. Think about LA, where a lot of these people are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Texas. The cost of living, right?
The cost of living in different areas, and a lot of these people live in like the major cities because that's where the gigs are.
Exactly.
So,
it's crazy. Cost the union fees on top of that too.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That really puts it into perspective. And I'm sure there are a lot of other channels, a lot of other community members out there that have put this into perspective that I've missed. But for everybody watching this show tonight and the rest of us here on the panel, I don't know about you guys, but that's kind of a wow to me. That kind of the comment from Cosmic One says Warner Bros. Discovery reporting they're going to take a $500 million loss. What if instead of taking that loss, they gave the actors and they gave the people $100 million and they made $400 million, and then we wouldn't be where we're at. Jesus,
it's because they have to make more profit than they did the year before, or it's a failure, which is the broken way to look at it.
Yes.
So I heard an interesting interview with Matt Damon. I'm sorry to like bust this up, but like where he was talking about movies like Good Will Hunting and Dogma or whatever, the indies that he was making early in his career that he says you can't make anymore because movie theaters need to have all your money back basically in the first 2 weekends. Like you can't extend it beyond that. And he said the big issue was like indies always had a secondary revenue stream, which was DVDs. Like you would make a big chunk of your money, maybe come close to breaking even, and then you sell the DVD and you cover advertising and you make your budget back and you have a little extra left over. But when you completely rob the market of that second revenue stream, you're basically saying we can't afford to miss on our movie. Like you have to make your money back in those early 2 weeks. And after that, there's no other revenue stream option because streaming services don't have this like bundle of money that makes its way down to all the people who worked on a movie. So it's not like a DVD where it was basically just a secondary revenue stream.
Do any of you guys think that this is fallout from the responses or changes that were made because of COVID? You think moving to the streaming platform and pushing to the streaming platform put us kind of into this perspective and moved us out of what was the status norm before that?
I think
It was
it was
there anyway.
Yeah, but it was also the studios not projecting what they thought. They felt like streaming was the way of the future, which it still is, but they weren't certain of how it wasn't going to make the money that they thought they was going to make at first run. They assumed that we're going to be making boatloads of money because everybody's going to subscribe to us. Well, guess what? I just dropped one of my streamers right now today, right? Because I'm paying the same I would for cable, and in some cases maybe even more, because it starts adding up after a while. So.
Yeah, that's changed a lot. I mean, like I was saying this some time ago that we all got into like this different Fire Sticks and whatnot to get access to cable content and whatnot and be able to do it at a cheaper price. And in some cases, get free movies from unlocking your Fire Stick and all these other things. Well, it's not cheap anymore. Now it's just the same thing. It's just the same cost.
And now they're throwing commercials back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's hilarious to me. Like the whole function was like, oh, I don't have commercials. This is great. And now they're like, no, we're adding the commercials back.
That was the big draw for the first 2 or 3 years was no commercial content. And we were happy to pay for that. And now the prices have doubled and the commercials are coming back.
Yep.
And they're building a platform so that they can be able to stream and be able to send the signals to those that use those Fire Sticks, because that was the trend everyone was going to. And I think they put more money into those infrastructures and kind of forgot a little bit about cable infrastructures, and maybe we're letting those kind of die off and worrying more about the digital side of things. And it might be a time where you can get cable because it's a subpar product for maybe cheaper in the near future. I don't know. That's just my guess, but it'd be funny if I'm like, I'm going to go to cable now because it's cheaper. That'd be like an oxymoron if I ever heard of it, if that happens.
Yeah, because when we got cable, we were, the whole thing was getting 70 plus channels, 80 plus channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was some coolness factor behind that, right? When I was a kid in the 90s, when cable finally came to the Bronx, because it took a while, I was excited because I had all these channels. But then as time drew near, you find out that you're really watching maybe 4, maybe 5 channels, and now. Today,
and that's all like ESPN the 8, right? ESPN the Ocho,
and Ocho. One. No, for me, I'm a huge wrestling guy, so I own. As far as cable goes, I watch USA, PBS, TNT. That's it.
We knew you were a PBS guy.
No, not PBS, TBS.
Oh.
That's what you're gonna. Yep.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
That's the difference now, and also the style in which we watched and absorbed that or took in that content. Friday night, 8 o'clock X-Files or 9 o'clock X-Files. I missed that growing up as a kid. Or the Wednesday or TGI Fridays and X-Files was maybe Thursdays or something like that. But I kind of miss a little bit of that structure where there was
watch Dark Angel. Watch Dark Angel.
God, I forgot about that show. It was cause for the family to get together and enjoy content. regardless if your family preferred R-rated content, did R-rated movies or PBS or whatever, there's a cause to get the family together that content. Now there still is that, but in a very different fashion, and it feels like there's 10 times more choices, even though it's not cable and you're not getting you can still get cable, you can still get 1,000 channels. But basically, to circle back around, I kind of want to ask you guys, there was a little bit of talk earlier before we started. The AMC is not the first company, producers, whoever, I forget the vernacular and the moment that we're talking about, but they're not the first group or entity to reach a deal with SAG-AFTRA. You guys had mentioned there was a couple others.
A24.
New 24. Sorry,
A24, because they're not streamers. So the beef, because that's what it is, right? It's beef. The beef that they have is against streamers. So companies that have streaming platforms, Disney, Netflix, Warner Brothers Discovery. However, what's weird is Sony may be able to strike a deal because they're not streamers, which is weird. So that could happen.
Well, that's another thing to add to this a little bit without going too far off the beaten path is the actors for Sony for video games are now joining the SAG-AFTRA strikes.
Mm-hmm.
That was new within the last, I think, week or two. I just happened to catch that and throw that in a chat. I don't have an article to cover that. But Three Rivers, I remember hearing about this. The goal is to put consumers on a subscription service for everything, including food, clothing, vehicles, and entertainment. Amazon's already there with the subscription for groceries on a lot of things, to the convenience factor. GM and Ford and other car manufacturers are already there. How many people there lease vehicles, or out in the world lease vehicles instead of purchasing? A lot more than you'd think.
There's a lot more than we think.
I'm not.
I assume the majority of people do because they think that's the only way to afford it. But
that's what a lot of the
manufacturers.
That's what a lot of manufacturers are doing, is they're making it so that the only way you can afford it is to lease it. This progressively increasing the price of the vehicle means that you can only afford it if you're leasing it for 2 years or 3 years or whatever.
Financing.
Phones.
Me and the wife saved it because phones, like a standard phone's 4 digits now, like $1,000 if you want a decent new phone. But me and the wife saved up. Like we're not doing that. We're just gonna go outright buy a phone.
Yeah, if you step off on release day for a new Apple iPhone, it's $1,500 now out the door.
And that's standard, right? We're not including the packages for storage, right?
Or the connection fees, or
like that 12, and then you're paying for cases and chargers that don't come with them. We'll give you a cord, but not the block.
So
like,
good.
What?
And then they give you the USB-C one, which doesn't have. It's harder to get the block for it because you can't just connect them anywhere.
Yep.
It's all a scam.
Lots of good comments coming in, but I mean, we're almost at the halfway mark, and this SAG-AFTRA AMC kind of conversation shedded. Great English, John. That's why you're here, buddy. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm just here to watch and laugh.
Hook me up with education. It really shed a lot of light on the perceptions that we kind of face for those of us that don't know and don't understand, and really puts a serious number on 80 some odd percent of people in not the guild, but the SAG-AFTRA in that union don't even make more than the minimum poverty level or are right at the poverty level. They're below that.
But they shouldn't, because that's not their living. They're in that union, but that's not their living. There's people that pay their bills with their job and act on the side are included in that number. There's people that work a full-time job as a career and plan on retiring on their career, but they go play extras are in those figures. Those figures are BS. Those
fair.
Are those are crocodile tier numbers when it comes down to it.
It's fair what you're pointing out for sure, and the other guys did that right before you showed up. It's just for some of us that haven't seen all those numbers, some of those people that are out there, but what they're doing is they're making ends meet with other jobs that aren't paying enough, that don't have union protection, so they're still struggling at that poverty level. Because if you are focusing a career and acting in the theater, trying to focus on a 9-to-5 career to make $60,000 a year to make ends meet, you can't quite do that. You can't have both feet in both doors, so to speak.
Yeah, that's like in any profession, really. You know what I'm saying? If I'm doing one thing, but I'd rather be doing another thing, I'm going to have to be good enough at it to be able to transition to it. This isn't like this is a job, no matter what you call it or what kind. It's just a job. You know, you work to pay bills. If one works it works. If another one doesn't, it doesn't. If you're trying to change jobs, this one's just skill based. It's preference based. You have us as consumers that prefer certain people to others. That's why you have movie stars and not a lot of them. And they, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like just anyone can just go make a living being an actor. Like, if anyone could do that, I'm sure a lot more people would. The old adage of like the people like, oh, he's going to move to Hollywood, he's going to make it, and they get there and they burn their life down because they just eat up like a machine.
Well, there's a good example. The guy who plays Shang-Chi, Limu, I don't know how to say his name. He was before he became a big time actor, he was one of these actors that did like a lot of advertisements. So when you know how you go to like Pixels, or if you need images and stuff like that, stock images, he was that kind of actor. So they have his image, but cool, because it's a photo of him. But think about live feeds, like, video footage of him going out like that, and they don't need his permission anymore at that point.
Yeah, I'm not on board for a lot of the stuff that the studio is doing. I'm just saying, like, I don't get the crocodile tear stuff that they're doing. Like, I get people wanting to make more. Everyone wants to make more. I don't think that everyone across the board deserves more in that profession, because I run a kennel, as most of you know. Like, I get numerous customers because I'm here in Georgia that are retired or they work a full-time job, but they go and do extra work all the time because it's fun. They're in the union. They don't care about the money they're making on it, but all that little chump change they're getting just for this fun experience on the weekend, that's getting factored into this and bringing that average way down. These people like that do this for an actual living, they make more or less decent money. I'm sure there's some out there that don't. I'd be more concerned about the writers than the actors in this situation personally, because the writers
I agree.
It require real talent that we're seeing lacking across the board. Like when writers are doing good, we're all happy. It doesn't matter that the writing is what counts the most. It really does. And that's what's the biggest risk with Chat GPT and the studios not wanting to pay them, like, as their stuff keeps going. Actors are going to be fine, more or less. You're always going to have a face on there. How many times does somebody come and go? They're like a comet. They come in fast, burn bright, then they're gone. Like in my lifetime, I've seen like groups of actors come into Hollywood, attempt to perform and do what they do, and then they're gone. Like, look at Taylor Kitsch. He had a whole summer where he's in Battleship. John Carter, Savages. They tried him. He didn't work. He went out. Where's his paycheck? Aren't we crying for him right now? He wants to be an actor.
But for me, like the Taylor Kitches and the Tom Cruises are like the small percentage near the tip of the iceberg. Like, the people I think of are the Steve Buscemi's before he became a name. Like those character actors who try to make a living and they're working all the time, but the parts they play aren't going to be parts where you're getting paid a shit ton of money. They live off of those royalties or those residuals, that if they get cut out of all that, because the streamers are like, we don't pay you for residuals in streaming. I don't care. I'm not going to tell you how many times your movie character on my platform. You're not getting paid for that. Character actors are the ones that get hosed.
Now they deserve
to get paid for streaming. There has to be some kind of like,
yeah.
I know they don't want to show the population, the numbers, because it will scare their investors off, and it's really that simple. They can't let them out, but there has to be some kind of agreement with agents. The people, like, that's a one-on-one perk that you have to share that data with somebody somewhere.
So the problem with residuals is a problem that they really can't figure it out just yet, because think of it from this perspective. You pay, you as a consumer, you pay, let's just say $10 a month for all the content, right? Yeah. So if you think about it, all the content that's in that one streamer, and then you have to break that down based on residuals. Now, is also, you could base it off of who's watching what, right? Because we know the streamers know who's watching what, right?
Right.
So, but it's like a gym membership in the sense that the streamers will prefer that you watch nothing. That way it's easier for them. The more you watch, the less money they're making.
My assumption is that the eventual agreement is going to not necessarily be exact numbers, but is instead going to have like platforms, meaning like your product reached somewhere in this block and you get paid a certain amount because of, this is about how many streamers it happened. It's not going to be a specific numbers. It's going to be like, you performed in this percentage or that percentage. And
exactly.
You have a residual based on that estimation where they don't have to release specific numbers, but at least there is a set system for an agreed upon payment for those writers or those.
And the money's good, and the money's not going to come from subscriptions. The money's going to come from ad revenues, and that's why the commercials are coming back.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
I think I saw a little tidbit that talked about remaining still on cable TV. Big pharma advertisements are literally paying 80-90%. Like if every dollar that comes in for ad revenue, they're like the highest grossing on cable TV.
So you're saying Viagra's making it go up?
I'm hearing sponsored commercials on the radio too. Like I know
Nice little point,
this is my row right here. This is my row. This is my row.
Or like when John comes to my channel and gets an advertisement talking about what was it again?
I don't even remember.
That's why this channel no longer does advertisements, as John commented.
It was like a funeral parlor or something. I got like a funeral parlor. I was like, damn, how old am I now? I'm not even getting the Viagra commercials anymore. I'm getting the funeral parlor. Buy your tombstone.
Ahsoka must have been pretty short tonight because the viewership jumped like 6 people in the last 2 minutes at about the 34-minute mark.
Mark joined us, and then it all just went to shit.
I don't have a dog in this race, so to speak. I'm not an actor, nor do I understand all of that. I can appreciate many different perspectives. I can appreciate where Mark comes from on that and shedding light onto that. And I can also agree that it's not a profession that you would normally go into to support a family. But I can definitely see where John's coming from with a lot of those numbers, and that there are a lot of people out there still struggling. Writers. Mark hit the nail on the head talking about writers, residuals for writers, and for just think about the content creators and musicians in that aspect, where the residuals that they should be getting that they might not be getting because of the streaming services that are using the music.
Darn Napster.
I think it was Snoop Dogg that was on stage not long ago talking about like
love me some
Napster. Musician that had like 80 million views on a video. He's like, "Where's their money? Where's their money? 80 million views. That's like platinum record level viewership. Where's their money? They got nothing."
So
I think
go ahead.
I was about to say, I think we're still just in like the infancy of streaming. You know what I mean? It hasn't really been around that long. All of this is just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. There's no way the way it is now will be the way it is in 5 years or even a year from now, because the money that funds this is not us viewers. There's not enough of us paying for these streaming things for them to continue lasting. So the investors are going to pull out. It's going to change its pay structure. They're going to step away from it, or just put movies up, start putting shows back in places that are more profitable and moving them over at a later date, premiering them somewhere else. I really think that that's where the money is premiering them back somewhere else where it matters, or just it's going to shift completely. I can even picture like some of these companies merging their streaming platforms into one.
Absolutely.
That's also another massive problem. As Izzy said, even though Izzy only watched 4 channels, he was still paying one company for those 4 channels, and John was watching 4 different ones, but paying the same company. If they can put all of this under an umbrella, give us one package, like for one like inflated cost. That
sounds like doesn't that sound a lot like cable?
Jesus Christ!
It never will be. It's just a bigger streaming platform. As long as you can still eliminate commercials, as long as you can still eliminate commercials at a certain cost point, as long as you have like an infinite number, it's DVR is what it is. That's all streaming service is. It's your DVR for a certain company. So
although
put it back together.
I'm with Kingdom Comics. I want a streaking service. That's what I want. I want
streaking service.
Let's get back to running through the quads.
We're going to the quad past the gymnasium.
Come on, Snoop-a-loop.
In
your hat.
But we've gone
cold out there.
Almost 40 minutes on this, and like we talked about earlier, and like with a lot of other shows, when people got to bounce, they can bounce whenever. We do want to segue into the next topic, because speaking of change and speaking of forward progress and movement, one of the things that I kind of noticed and wanted to bring up, and this is I'm super appreciative and happy of the panel that showed up tonight, namely Bryan and Ryan, who are here every week, but the additional panelists that came in, because I see a very diverse selection of the comic community when it comes to age, when it comes to time and experience in the comic community, because
age.
Dude, punch me.
Hey,
I'm sorry. I'm distracted. I'm buying my tombstone.
So how many people here have gray beards? I'm just saying.
Oh, you're right.
I'm still trying to grow one.
Just last week, I stumbled on an Instagram reel or a TikTok or something, and it was a content creator that had spent a good 2 or 3 minutes talking about how they were accused of something and how it was unfair and it was not right. And it just kind of dawned on me that I'm starting to see that every week or every other week out there in the community. This is
What
the
kind of
community.
content are you following?
Well, the community is very vast.
It is very vast.
From dealers and retailers to readers to collectors to art appreciators to people that buy comic books just to hoard them and hold on to them as investments. The comic community is very vast and it's very diverse. And one of the biggest problems, I think John and Bryan can agree with me a little bit more than everybody else, because I think my time with John and Bryan dates back to almost 8 years now. Not quite that long, maybe a hair longer, but the comic community to some of us feels very different now than it did in the past. And one of the things that I remember vividly was very long Thursday or Friday night hangouts, 6, 7, 8 hours. And it was people popped in and people popped out, and it was like open mic. Think YouTube. Google Hangouts used to be like YouTube, where you could stream to YouTube, but you could post a link publicly and people would come and go, to the point where you had to be worried that people were fully dressed. And it made for some hilarious content and some fun times. But you know what I'm noticing that's missing from the days gone by to now is camaraderie. There is camaraderie. I'm not saying there's not camaraderie, but as the community as a whole, there seems to be a lack of camaraderie between groups or channels or people. And that doesn't mean you can't enjoy what you want to enjoy and then just say hi to the next person. But the lack of camaraderie, people in generally just aren't being treated fairly as people. Retailers are still people. Dealers are still people. Store owners are still people. Readers are still people. And there's just a vast amount of hate and a vast amount of people not being nice to other people. And I kind of wanted to open the floor to talk tonight. Have you guys to share some of your experiences that were positive and or negative, and potentially ideas that you guys can think about going forward in the future to kind of help heal the comic community a little bit, because it does feel like the community as a whole needs some sort of healing.
I think this is where John steps in with his gray beard of wisdom, right?
Gandalf comes forward.
The grayest beard steps in.
John the Gray.
That's a good name.
So
I like it.
I will say it takes, I think, willful decision making. Like you look at somebody like Bryan LCS, and here's somebody that is intentionally creating platforms like the community awards to highlight channels, to promote people, to put some effort into creating a word of mouth, and love it or be frustrated by it as because it's a popularity contest. It's somebody who is intentionally trying to create space beyond one click in this community, right? And trying to bridge between all the different clicks of any community. And I think it takes intention. It takes intentional choices.
That's a fair point. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things, the biggest thing that sticks out to me over the last 2 or 3 years is how much hate Bryan had to contend with.
Yeah,
when this idea started, and he still gets a lot of hate, and there are still people that say rigged.
Yeah,
it's all
Marcus and I give him crap all the time.
I'm about to say, if you watch his Sunday show, he's going to have an open bitching time this coming forward, so you can save it all and just unload at that point.
It really grinds my gears. BBC Awards.
Yeah, of all the things wrong with the world today, let me tell you.
Dude, I think a lot of it has to do with just, again, this is like one of those natural progressions. Like people, there's a huge influx into the comic hobby. Like how you mentioned all those different facets of the comic hobby, of reading the stories, collecting the books, just loving the art, being a fan of the movies. There's a huge influx into it with the MCU. That really brought a giant amount of people into this hobby, and they all came in with open eyes and excited and happy. And just like with any new thing, you play with it long enough, you get tired of it, you get jaded by it, you see through some of the BS, because there's always BS on the hobby end of things as well. And I think at this point in the game, there's just a large number of people that are just done with it and hadn't put it down yet. They're still
It
here.
depends on what you're playing with.
Yeah, they've been here, but they're done with it. They just ain't found the next thing yet, kind of deal.
What
That's
am
fair.
I playing with?
And it's oh god, I mean it's okay to be somebody that doesn't want to partake and wants to, okay, I'm just not going to partake. I'm not going to allow this to take any social energy from me or to change my day. And that's a fair thing to say. It's also fair to say that it's not okay to go out and attack somebody publicly because of a decision they made. Now, that being said, retailers are retailers, dealers are dealers, and they know that if they're going to put themselves out and they're going to post certain things, that they're probably going to get something in return. Like Kingdom Comics says, if you say something, expect stuff in return. You dish it, better take it.
I agree with that. I think that's we have to protect those people that you were talking about, those new people, and by protecting them, I mean there is stuff that we should call out there. There's actions that we don't like. We should call it out. We should say, this is an action I don't like. This is why I don't like it, and hopefully, that plays out to stopping those actions. I think that there's a difference between being an asshole and
being a whole ass.
Kind of, yeah, Jesus.
I didn't say it.
And protecting what you love too. Sometimes we're too nice. We see something going down that if you don't say anything, it's going to keep happening, and it's going to get more people are going to see it. With money being involved in this hobby, it's you're already inviting in the fuckery. So it's there is times where you have to call some stuff out.
And to be completely honest, this community is such a diverse community in the sense that some of us are readers, some of us are collectors, some of us are investors, some of us are all of that, right? And then some of us are just passing by. We like one thing, and that's the one thing we like. And then there's others that like everything. And then, there's artists again, it's all over the place, right? And the thing is that sometimes we can't coexist because things conflict against each other, right? So for example, the collector, you talk to a collector about something, and then you find out that they don't really know that the book that they're collecting means nothing. They think it means something, right? Because they're collecting it because it's rare, because it's a newsstand, as opposed to that kind of stuff, right? And then the reader's like, well, you know what? Tell me anything good about that story. Why is that important? Who cares, right? And that's where that animosity starts coming in. But at the same time, we always have to take a look at the next generation of the comic community, because I'm sorry to say, guys, look at this panel here. This is a good example.
We're a rough lot.
There's a lot of talking about me being old. I'm just gonna say.
I'm not saying we're old. We're aged with time.
You could have renamed this stream Jaded.
But the tell you the truth is, look for 20-something-year-olds that are buying comics these days. There's not many. There really aren't many. Mark is a lot older than he looks.
No, he's not.
Yeah, if I take the hat off, you see the crow's feet.
He's a child. What are you talking
know what I'm saying?
I'm a 16-year-old child.
I'm a person that goes to a lot of conventions, right? I was at a show 2 weeks ago. I'm going to Baltimore this week. The people that are the youth that are going to the conventions are not reading traditional comics. What they're doing is they're either dressing up as this the comic book character that they never read, or they are reading manga, because manga is fulfilling their need that we had when we were young. Where today's marketplace, what they're doing is they're trying to feed us by giving us 1 in 10s, 1 in 50s, 1 in 100s. And it ends up being more about the variant than what the story's about, even though a lot of us still want to read the story. But man, I don't know how many times I go to a shop and I end up buying 3 copies of the same book because I think that cover's hot. You know what I mean? And in reality, I should just buy the one book. They did that to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to my LCS yesterday to start working on my box because I haven't been there as regularly as I normally am, and I was like, anyway, I started working on this thing, so I brought Chris Hunsky with me, and it put I have like 2/3 still left, and I only collect Venom, and so it was like all these variants. There's just a ton of variants for each one, and I was like, good Lord. And so yeah, it's like it's still the variants what take it all. And I read, I enjoy reading, and the variants is my OCD. I have to my collective, I have to capture them all. My completionist in me, the reason why I get that. And so it was, I was like, I thought for sure I'd be able to knock out over half of what I had, because I hadn't been there, and it had been like maybe about 3 weeks or so, and I only again pick up like Venom titles except for like Boy Rivals, and I just couldn't believe how many like for Extreme Venomverse, and for the Death of Venomverse, and then for Venom itself, and it was like, oh my god, just those 3 titles alone for like 3 issues or 2 issues each. There's probably a total of like 18 books that need to be picked up. Insane.
And to that point right there, Three Rivers makes a fantastic point. There's never been more of a time when comic book culture is ingrained in younger people. They've grown up in an era where they don't remember it not being the most popular thing in pop culture. The thing is, they're 20-year-olds. Teenagers are hanging out with their friends, they're running around, they're trying to find jobs, they're trying to get through college. I'm sure a lot of people, if you've been around comics, like I was raised around comics because of my dad. I remember being a kid just wanting to soak it up and read all these books, this and that. Then I remember getting a little bit older and I started just reading trades when I could. And then I went through a time when I'm reading trades like if I'm lucky, because life is so busy. And then I get settled and established and everything, and I start, the frequency comes back. It's really, life has a lot to do with it. But getting back to the point of the whole anger and animosity in the hobby and everything, that's humans, man. That's nature. It's going to be anywhere. This hobby is just so big. It's just like, I don't even think there's a high rate of it, but because the hobby's so big, there's a lot of instances of it, like individual instances. So for me, the way I live my life, I don't care what somebody says. Say what you want. That is your right to look like a jackass. And most of the time, I hope you say it to me, because I love to argue. John knows this firsthand. Like, please. My thing is, I'm only responsible for me. So if you come off and say something sideways to me, that's my fault if I take it in offense. That's my fault if I let it ruin my day. That's my fault if I act on it in a way that I'm not proud of myself later. What you say to me has nothing in the world to do with me, no matter what. Like, I'm only responsible for me, and I'm going to keep on pushing. So I think that's kind of like the culture that needs to be reinforced to people. Like, who cares what someone says? Yeah, they're an ass. Yeah. Why is it taking up space in your head? Is your side of the street clean? Let's keep it pushing.
Yeah, you can reinforce that, but I think one of the biggest things lost in humanity in the entire world overall is that people forget that it's okay to disagree, but it's not okay to mistreat another person because they think or feel slightly different. It's not okay to not treat somebody like a human because they want to speculate on a comic book, and then if somebody sits there and bashes over them because they bought 10 copies, well, then, like you said, they're going to look the fool. That next person can move on and keep their street clean, like you said. But I think that's where, as I'm going to say it, as comic book community leaders, all of us here on this panel, and I'm not tooting my horn or anybody's horn specific, anybody with a channel or anybody that's live on any channel is a leader in the comic book community. We can stand steadfast with the treat humans like humans, that golden rule, do unto others as you want done to yourself, and reinforce that. Keep your street clean, I'll keep my street clean, and remember that it's okay to disagree. That's kind of one of the points that I wanted to get to.
The point, not the person. It's just people forgot how to debate. People forgot how to argue properly. You're not arguing against a person, you're arguing against their words. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't agree with half the shit John says. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm saying that, like, me and John have great conversations.
We often don't see things the same way, but I appreciate his perspective, and I'm always interested in hearing what he's coming from.
That's how I've become friends with them, is because we disagreed and we were going back and forth, and never once did we insult each other. But these are heated conversations about our passion. Not
It's always about Batman too. Jeez, that guy.
It's about X-Men, you piece of shit.
Greatest team ever, X-Men.
The one thing I also feel, and I've talked to Circumstances Marcus about this a bunch, is like the recreational outrage, people coming to, what are you trying to get from your social media? And like, some people, they love it. They come to social media, they feed off of the toxic, troll stuff, and they just want to get into it. And I appreciate that. But like, for me, it's about, what do you want to get from this? And for me, I don't want speculation stuff. So I don't subscribe to those channels. There are way more channels than you think covering just good story and reading. If you don't want to watch spec stuff, if the investment stuff bothers you, why are you subscribed to those channels? Like, get out there and look and find the legion of comics channels that out there that are always talking about books, always breaking stuff down, always reading and sharing. There's plenty of options out there. But to get mad because you're feeling like, oh, it's all just crap investing, is like, that's just what you're choosing the algorithm to feed you. Like, get out there and find the stuff you enjoy reading. And if you get frustrated because everybody's negative, find the channels that are positive. I mean, I get out there and I subscribe and I jump in the chats for those channels that are feeding my joy of this community. And that's what I watch. And if somebody's getting negative all the time, I'm not going to subscribe unless they're Marcus. And
that's true what you said, because there are, we all do something a little different from the others, right? So for example, like John was saying, you could find, there's plenty of channels out there that will they'll read the comic book for you, and then that makes you want to buy the comic book.
Right? I'll get you cut off.
Right? Like Comics Explained. He practically tells you the story, right? But then there's those out there that, like myself, every Monday we talk about what's coming out and what's trendy. That doesn't mean I'm telling you have to go pick that book up. That means that's what's trending. And therefore, I'll let you know.
To buy for months now.
I've never told you to buy what you would. I see your Tuesday show. I see your Tuesday. But
you'll be the reason why I succeed or fail. It's your fault.
They made me buy this book. It's still $3. It's still $3.
And John's right. There's going to be people out there that are going to be out there looking to pick a fight. Their perception of Izzy's content, they're going to, no matter how you convey it, they're going to say, well, Izzy told me to buy this. So there is some of that will have to deflect. And I do want to highlight a channel in specific that I think doesn't get enough credit.
Oh, I thought trying to help name the bad channels. I was here to do that.
Yeah, I was waiting.
No, like if Alan knows, because like there's this channel specifically that, as Izzy would say, grinds my gears. Their entire platform is built on trashing on the comic market, Marvel, DC, everything that gets announced, no matter what, how good or bad it is, they say it's going to be bad ahead of time, then try to justify it after it comes out. And I don't think they actually read it. But I noticed, because I go over there and I pick debates. I pick debates in their chats. And what I notice is all the people that watch them, which is insanely huge numbers of people, insanely huge, they seem to all have the same common thing where they just want someone to justify why they don't spend money on the hobby. They want to feel like they're making a correct decision with ever experiencing if they are or aren't, because you hear the same complaints, which they're a valid complaint for like 1% of the actual comic book market if that's not your thing. Like the fact that like I read so much and I don't run into their complaints. Like, so what? I don't get it, but it's crazy how much those channels are pushed. And I even saw there's a list that Bueller sent where it was an actual article that was written on comic book channels to check out, and Bueller was on there, and then numerous ones of these hate mongering channels were on there because whoever made the list didn't go do their research. They just looked at subscriber numbers or something. Sure. And it's unfortunate that some people might actually be exposed to that as their first exposure and be ran away from the hobby, because the people that you're talking about, Andy, you have Comics Explained, and who else with those kind of numbers that the algorithm is suggesting to people and pushing to people? It's just hate sells.
Because as I say, the negativity sells fast, and it's easy to blow up by just dragging something through the coals. And it's harder to build up an audience by celebrating things, because you just need to find people that are interested in what it is you're celebrating. It's trickier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 80% of the time you're having a good experience, but you only talk about the 20% of the time you're not.
I just want to say, I'll miss you. I read the private chat.
I got to balance, guys. I got to get done. I'm starting to lose track of this fantasy draft I'm doing. So
have a good night.
Next week, hope to see all these guys here next week. I really had fun, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Later, bro.
Peace.
Later, bro.
So
I think
perspective, right? The perspective and how people choose to use that information is there's one channel I want to highlight and kind of throw out into the focal point, and it's not to throw them under the bus or anything, but I gotta say that Beyond Wednesdays catches more heat than they deserve. Bryan McClay, for what he tries to do to protect the community and bring up some of these focal points of, hey, navigate this, or hey, this is what's going on. Bryan, I've seen you catch and carry more heat over the last 2 years than you deserve, brother. And you don't get enough credit for trying to be an awareness piece for the next echelon, the next level of community members that are trying to find your channel. And the numbers speak for themselves with the content that people are attracted to your content and watch. It's not that you're not trying to be clickbaity. You're trying to be a beacon, a lighthouse beacon. Hey, watch out. Hey, let's talk about this. Hey, let's have this difficult conversation. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you when it comes to being a leader in the community for trying to navigate those things, as tricky as they are, and sticking to it and sticking to your guns.
I appreciate it, man.
That's something I look up to and I appreciate in the community, because those conversations can be hard.
I figure that people, especially with live shows, people are there. That's what they want. People want blood, right? So you're going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it anyways. I'm going to if I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to turn it into, all right. Try and not turn it into a pitchfork thing if I can. And I think that I do it in the opposite fashion. People see the drama alert and they see that it's going to be drama. It's going to cause hate. But the point of drama alert is the opposite of that. And that's how I bring them in. So drama alert is to bring it up in a way that, I have a round table of people. Let's bring up the idea. Let's look at the different angles of it. I think one of the episodes last week was a real good example of that, where we brought up the Spawn 306 thing, and Comic Tom is taking a lot of heat, which he shouldn't be taking, in my opinion, because a year ago, he basically said, hey, there looks like there's some fuckery going on here. Be careful of it. And he did that a year ago. Now, I don't care how he got the information, who he got it from. He put it out there that there might be something going on here. And instead of immediately going after the guy because everybody wants to go after the guy, let's bring up the video. Let's look at it. Let's take a deep look at it. Let's decide whether we think there's some fuckery going on. But that's the other point. If there is fuckery going on, I think that it's important to talk about it in a way where you put yourself in another person's footsteps now, or shoes. Now, sometimes that's not easy to do because we're people. We're going to feel a way about something. We're going to get angry about something. And that's just the way it is. But that's where I come from. I mean, that's the speculation and stuff is where I come from. Don't get me wrong. I come from being a comic fan, a collecting fan, a card fan, a toy fan. That's where I come from. But I also come from the content that I started creating was based on speculation. And it's hard to continue to create that content and have it not get into that drama sphere. It's very hard. And the reason why is because of money. Money always, in my opinion, there's such a good chance for some shit behind the scenes, somebody to figure out a shady way to make money, or a shady way that the community feels shady about it. We change on what we feel shady about, so that's the other thing. Our hobby, the markets and the community speak a lot, and their views change on things. So I don't know, man. It's very interesting. I try to navigate those waters because I know I'm going to have to navigate them anyways, and I try to do it in a way that's not going to cause more damage. But at the same time, man, I do feel like we have to protect those new people. There's a lot of new people that are in this community that have come in here in the last 3 years, especially. A lot of new retailers that need a little help. They don't understand this community. They see exclusive variants and what in these third-party selling programs and the cool kids and that type of stuff, and they think, okay, this is what I need to do. but you don't have to do that. I mean, there's the community is so vast, and and you know, I like to say that we have different tent poles in our community. We're a big, huge circus, and there's different tent poles, and the circus tent is massive. So, you know, like these guys say, there's ways to do it without having to worry about that. But I like to navigate in that.
Yeah, is we're heading back to Superman 75, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where people are buying in the thought that this book is going to take them to college, you know, and that's to the same extent as then, but we're going back to that level where you got to get this book because it's a 1 in 100, and because there's only, you know, or there's only 500 that they make. And again, it is what it is, right? A smart investor invests smartly. If you invest in the stock market, you do your research. It's the same thing. The difference is it's a comic. That's the difference. But it's really the same thing. The only thing is when we talk about books, especially when it comes to the modern books, they're not gonna all be Ultimate Fallout 4. I'm sorry. The reason why Ultimate Fallout 4 is what it is because when it came out, no one bought it. Same thing with New Mutants 98. No one bought it. You know, Batman Adventures. No one bought it. So it becomes rarity, right? These books are not rare.
Yeah.
And therefore, you get upset that the book is not hitting the numbers that you think it should be hitting because there's no demand for it. There needs to be a demand, and there needs to be a shortage of supply for things to be the way they are. And if people want to spec, they're gonna spec because, you know, let's be honest. Does anybody care about the origin of Wolverine's costume?
I didn't think you were going to end that with Stoom. I heard. I know what.
I'm just saying.
We got Batwing. We got Wolverine Wing.
So there are some, but like you're right. The number is not anywhere near as high as you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also people don't read anymore. I mean, and there's a couple reasons for that. One,
except for Mark,
the stories are terrible. The stories are garbage. For the most part, in my opinion, the event syndrome that publishers have created over the last 10 years has ruined storytelling in comics for me personally.
Just out of curiosity, real quick, how long have you been like heavily into comics?
Since I was 7 years old.
I mean, heavly.
I'm 43.
Comics, like now that you're 43, I mean, like, when I'm a kid, I was into them, but like into them, reading regularly.
So from about 7 till high school, I hit high school. I became a D-Gen for about 10 years, and then I don't know, since I've been about 25, I've been heavily into comics. So I'm 43 now.
Ongoing events have been a part of your life for half of your life, and now what's got you tired of them now?
Are you trying to say that ongoing events are good?
No, I'm just saying, like you mentioned, I'm not saying they're good or bad. I'm asking you about what you said. You said like the event fatigue is pretty much one thing you said. You said modern comic stories are terrible. The events are burning out, but that's nothing new whatsoever. Not even in our lifetime of reading comics. So what about them?
I think it's new. I think that what's new about the event syndrome is that we have tons of them. In the past, pre-2000, I would say an event happened one every couple of years or so.
But pre-2000, you weren't reading like that. You just said roughly like.
But that doesn't mean I don't read those comics.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that for as long as you've been heavily into comics, per what you just said, you have been in the era of regular events, not just the summer blockbuster event, but regular events, little crossover time events happen all year. Of course, you have your summer blockbuster events, typically a winter smaller event. That's been the formula for the entirety of your heavily reading comics life. So why is it now what do you think it is that's wore you out of it now versus 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 5 years ago? Why is
the writing is not good. I don't think the writing is good. Yeah. No, I don't think comic book writing is anywhere near what it was in the early 2000s.
I would agree.
I think that yeah. So
I think what's happening,
writers are out there though is the thing. And as someone who's been reading regularly for about that long as well, like heavily regular. Like my first job in high school was at LCS that I still have a full box at now and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I can agree heavily, like especially in the last 3 years, I think is when most of this talk of like the quality of writing really dropping so much and this and that. But for me, Marvel's dead. Marvel comics are absolutely dead in quality until they sell that. Until Disney doesn't own it and there's a complete shift in 100% creative, it's done. The quality that you're getting now, you either like it or you don't. It's not going to get better. Their formula they're using, their release and everything is just trash. I dropped Marvel because of how bad Empire was. I still grab stuff here and there because I love the characters. Like I'm picking up Hulk and I'm loving it. Benjamin Percy is crushing it on Ghost Rider. Aaron Johnson crushed it on Punisher despite all the hate mongers bitching about the skull. That was one of the coolest Punisher stories in years. But like there's still some good stuff hidden in there. Yeah. DC, on the other hand, like, and I stand for DC all the time, but it's because the quality is still there. You're seeing an uprise in DC because about 2 years ago, amidst all this complaining and stuff, they pretty much almost sold the company and just kept Batman on the shelves. And then they did the whole Future State event and brought in all these new talents that were really cheap to get in there and have been really trying to make a name for themselves. Rom V, Philip Kennedy Johnson, like all these like people that are really starting to get pushed to the forefront now. You have Philip Kennedy Johnson on Action. He like undeniably saved Superman from the Bendis era. Rom V, anything he touches, people want to get because he's undeniably fantastic. Joshua Williamson is finally finding his footing. He proved himself with that Flash run, but taking on a bigger responsibility, who knows if he could do it, but he's actually finding his footing. And where Dark Crisis kind of let some people down, Night Terror shocked everyone.
Night Terrors is great. Night Terrors is great.
Yeah, I'll agree.
I thought that was being pigeonholed in there, but that was like a calculated introduction to the DC universe for new readers jumping on at the DCU. So like I think we're in a prime time for DC because Joshua Williamson's is about to be the next Jeff Johns with the creative control and how far he spread. And I'm really excited to see if he actually can pull off some of the big moves that Johns has done. But I think
what I mean by the event syndrome thing is I feel like we lost that thing about comics where you would have these cool little 3 to 4 issue storylines, right? That were just amazing. And you didn't have to worry about every book being a tie-in to an event, right? You had your own little storylines. I love what's going on with Flash right now. You talked about Rom V. You talked about reading Hulk. I think the new Hulk, I think that's great. And I think that's also taking it back to that early 2000s, late 90s era where you had these great, people call them like independent, publishers, but they weren't really independent publishers, like Vertigo, and you had Image doing great things, but you also had these writers telling these great little short storylines, these great short stories that changed comics, right? And I don't think that's happening anymore because everything's a tie-in. Everything is part of the next event.
Do you still have an active pull list?
I stopped my pull list. My local comic shop stopped dealing with Diamond about 3 years ago. Okay. So I moved from a pull list to a digital reader. So I don't have a box. So I just read digitally now.
Well, I guess I didn't necessarily mean physical because like John has a digital pull, but you're still actively reading across the board.
Oh yeah, man. I actively read. I mean, I say people don't read, and a lot of the times, I might not bring up that I read all the time, but you kind of have to read a lot of this stuff in order to talk about it. Now, don't get me wrong, I stay away from the hot stuff. I read things. I like the goofy stuff, and I like the dark stuff. Right? I'm liking what Eddie P is doing on his stuff. I like what. I'm really geeking on the Dwelling stuff just because I like Jay Stevens' art, and I like those cool little funny stories. I'm reading the Hulk stuff. I love the Hulk stuff. I'm looking forward to the Flash stuff. I like
a lot.
I like Little Monsters. I thought was a fun little thing. I like things like that. But I've also because I think the writing has kind of died, I've let a lot of my stuff that I used to read religiously stop reading. X-Men, because I used to read X-Men religiously. X-Men destroyed me with how they did up until about a month ago, X-Men destroyed me. I was looking so forward to, Hickman doing his thing, and I don't like what happened with that whole
Now, I don't
storyline.
blame necessarily. Well, I mean, Hickman
Yeah.
going to Hickman kind of thing, but that's a perfect example of what I mean. Like Marvel's dead till you change companies, because you saw what the corporate entity did to the comic book readers. There's no love or passion for this part of their customer
so
base
one of the
because
things I
they
was gonna
didn't have
say-
access to the movies and stuff. So they intentionally killed the comics. They did the same thing with Fantastic Four until they started getting rights back and started trying to put stuff out. So that kind of stuff, that just I can't get behind that stuff. And now
Yeah.
X-Men is just like
Rough.
it's an
Yeah.
entity of its own. It went from not being non-existent to being so existent that it's borderline impossible unless you're like committed full-heartedly to just that entity almost.
Go ahead,
What
Ian.
happened to me for a long time, I was away from comics for a good 10, 15 years. Now, I've always kept my ear open to find out what's going on, but I was never, until I came back with my channel about a year and a half ago, is when I started going back into it. Well, what bothered me, and to what Bryan was talking about with the crossover thing, I think what really bothered me was the stakes. The stakes don't matter anymore.
Yep.
And, if something happens somewhere, it's retcon within 2 or 3 issues, right?
Yep.
Now, we joke about deaths, right? So, perfect example is Miss Marvel, right? No one bought into the fact that she was going to stay dead, right? No one bought it. Even though you give us spoiler warnings, you told us this and that, but at the same time, it was pigeonholed into a Spider-Man story that made no sense as well, right? Because going back to what you were saying, Mark, it's the movie studio is dictating the comic books as opposed to what it used to be that the comic book dictated what the movie did. I don't like when you look at the MCU when its first 3 phases, they were taking elements of the stories that we love and doing their spin so that we could enjoy it, but at the same time, it's still new and fresh to us. Where now it's the exact opposite, where they're doing things and now we have to the comics has to make a change. Thus the reason Miss Marvel is now a mutant. Right.
I think a lot of the issues with like that whole concept of like the whole stakes. There's no stakes in comics. There's never been stakes in comics.
There's never been stakes in
I
comics,
can
but there was
being a very, very small.
There was stakes in comics in the 80s. Infinite Crisis.
There was stakes.
You say that.
There was
Daredevil.
The reality, but going back to what I'm saying.
As a kid, I remember watching Batman '89 with my dad, and when Joker like definitively died, I was like, "Yo, they killed the Joker." And my dad's statement to me as a 4-year-old is, "Don't worry, no one stays dead in comics."
No, and that's true.
That's always been the thing, but it's
true.
just different people's
But when I talk about stakes, Gwen Stacy's death, that was a big deal. When pretty much a lot of it had to do with Spider-Man, right? Even when Captain America first died. If you remember when Captain America first died in Civil War, there was like, they just killed Captain America.
And no one assumed he was staying
again.
Dead.
We all know that part. That part we know. The problem now is that it doesn't have that same impact as it once did.
Even when they killed off Black Goliath in Civil War, like Beelish, like, he'll be back. Like no one's
but everybody knows they'll be back. Like when Superman died, but when Superman died, that itself was an event. We all knew he was coming back because you can't keep a good man down, right? But what they did was they made that longevity so that you could feel and that you could miss him. What I mean about stakes today is that if someone's dead, if they kill a character off today, within 2 or 3 weeks or a month, we're going to see that character come back. So in other words, you could have a major crossover event, and usually the major crossover event, there's a death somewhere along the lines, right? You don't care anymore.
Well, that's
so it doesn't matter.
The characters, like they're abusing the character with Kamala Khan. Look at Kent Nelson, Dr. Fate. He's been dead for a hot minute. Look at Wesley Dodds. He was dead for decades, and they just brought him back, and it was an epic moment. So it's really just on how much it's
the impact.
How do you consider it epic? I mean, what is an epic moment to you?
Well, I'm a JSA fan, and I think that like as a JSA fan, Wesley Dodds being gone for so long, going through the whole Jeff Johns run with the legacy character in there, like running his whole thing and everything, and then that being sat on for a while and not really being active, and the JSA having this slow return since the New 52 era to bring back Wesley Dodds was a huge deal
for you, but epic for most comic book people, probably not.
Well, that most comic book people probably aren't reading it. Like DC fans
But
are
that's
reading
who we're
it.
talking about. We're talking about that most comic book people.
Yeah,
I think
but
that feel
interchange character any way you want. If you like pull off like a long death and bring someone back in relevant storytelling when he was, because it was relevant. The case file that they were working on was a case file that Wesley Dodds worked on. The Lazarus Effect event that happened earlier in the year, that's what they tied into to get him back up. So it was a well-written, well-thought-out return of a character that had been gone for a long time. Gwen Stacy came back. Everyone but Marvel has come back. Everyone.
But that was a good example. When Marvel died, that's a good example of a death. That's a good example. Again, Flash's death.
It's not the return of the character that's so epic. It's how you're packaging it.
No, but it's the story-wise, right? So one of my favorite stories. I absolutely love it. I tell anybody who doesn't read comics, if you want to read a good story, read this one. Is Identity Crisis. Identity Crisis. The first issue, they killed off a character, and you know what? They didn't kill off a superhero. They killed Sue. They killed a side character, but when Brad Meltzer wrote the story with Rag Morales' artwork, you eventually cared. Within one issue, you cared for her death. And when she finally died, you went, what just happened? And then it took you on this roller coaster ride of what was going on. That, to me, is fantastic storytelling that actually had stakes involved. Yes, I agree. People are going to come and go. They're going to interchange all the time. That's comics. That's just the nature of the game, right? But the reality of it is the impact. Does it have impact? What's going on today has no impact. Nothing.
Great point.
How many people today can tell you who Sue Dibney is?
Well, if you want to talk Identity
Same thing
Crisis,
with Wesley Dodds.
I think
a lot of people can tell you now because he just popped back up, and he's a golden age character. Sue Dibney's the wife of a C-lister, which I love. That's one of my favorite stories, and I
love it.
Hold on.
Story.
Speaking about identity crisis, we got to address the fact that the conversation has a bit of identity crisis, and I want to kind of bring us and pull us back in, and I want to give the floor to Alan too, talking about the comic community as somebody. When I say new, that's not a downplay or looking down or anything like that, but you're relatively new within the last 2 or 3 years into the comic book community, and kind of bring it back, because I think we all can agree on the quality of writing and the quality of content. It doesn't hold a candle to 2005, 2010. There's sections that we all resonate with a little bit better, and I'm with you guys. The event scenario or situation is painful, and I learned the hard way the last 3 years. But Alan, man, I want to give you the floor to talk about some of your experiences coming into seeing where the community's at, seeing how it's been handled, and what you look forward to in the future too.
Well, I mean, I went through a lot of changes as in stages of collecting and getting back into the hobby. And I mean, I just tried to, at first I was like Rhino and wanted to get everything, and that's not feasible. I mean, that's just, unless you're independently wealthy, it's not feasible. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. And you gotta try and do your research. You got to do your research, because if you're not doing your research, you're going to fall into the FOMO pit every single week, not just every once a month or twice a month. It's every single week. I mean, let's look at Transformers 1 coming out next month. I've already seen, I think, like 6 retailer variants, that's not even counting the ones that are going to be on the shelves. Like, it's so much, and they're building up so much FOMO for those books, and it's just like, whoa. I mean, if you want to go and try and get all those, and you want to fall into that, and you want to do it, and you can afford to do it, go for it. You do you. I think the biggest thing is that I'm not saying most, but I think some of the newer people do not want, or younger people don't want, the accountability for them buying a book and now they regret buying it. They want to blame it on somebody. when you really need to collect what you want. You need to collect what you want to read or what you want to have in that box, on that shelf or in that closet, wherever you store your books. You have to want it. If you don't want it, don't buy it. And if you don't, and if you do buy it and you don't want it, well, you can't blame somebody else. You're the one that spent the money. I mean, if you have to take accountability for your own collection. It's that simple. And I think some of that is a problem, not a huge problem, but I think that some of that is a problem, especially when you're talking speculating, because newer people coming in, they saw the comic boom rise during COVID. They saw those prices go up, and they're like, "Hey, I can buy comics. I can make money."
Mm-hmm.
It literally felt like it was never going to end.
It's not that easy.
Yeah.
It's not even close to that easy, you know. And they get in and they expect that, and they watch these speculation channels. And what they need to realize is that they're just that. They're speculation. Mm-hmm. It's a risk. Sometimes it's a calculated risk, but
I think you're also in the speculation world. You're also dealing with a vast majority of people that care more about the price of their book than they do about what's in the book and what the story is and all that stuff. So, which is fine. I love anybody that buys a book for any reason, but it also means that your love for a book goes up and down based on what that book is worth. Mm-hmm. And that can be rough. A lot of people don't survive in that world, like you said, unless you're independently wealthy or, that is your game. You're not in it for any other reason than you love to. I used to play a video game called World of Warcraft, and there was people in that game that wouldn't play anything other than the auction house. They just loved going into the auction house and making money and making gold on the auction house. And I think that's the same thing with speculation. A lot of people in speculation, they jumped in the last, let's say 5 years, 5 to 10 years, maybe. And the vast majority of the second speculator boom, I think, started, within the last 10 years. And especially the last 3 years, we have a huge group of people that quit their jobs to make money selling comic books or flipping comic books. Or man, that's a lot of mad people right now.
Not a good idea.
And there was a handful of people that did it to make ends meet, to survive too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Whatever you have to do for that, like, we talked about for early in the show. But I just think that speculation has become a bad word, and I hate to say it, it's a bad word for a reason. I mean, there is some fuckery that really goes on in that world, and it's because you bring money into it. But people love the fact that books are breaking record sales and this and that, but now they're not too happy that the market is down 70%.
I think that's. Go ahead, Alan.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I still speculate, but I do my own. I will do some research, know what's coming out, and hey, if there's a first appearance of some type of character in this book, all right, I'll grab one and pick it up off the shelf. But that's one book. I'm going to buy that book. And if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Here's the thing that I'd like to add going forward in the future, especially with this channel, is I want to demystify the word speculation. I want people to understand and realize going to a dollar bin and buying books out of a dollar bin is a form of speculation, not in the truest sense as people think about coming into the comic book community, but going to a dollar bin because you don't want to pay full price on a Wednesday, that's a form of speculation.
Yep.
Buying a book on a New Comic Book Day Wednesday, like I do, a 1 in 100, because I don't want to miss out on that, is a form of FOMO/speculation. I own part of that. That's part of why I tried to never fail to do my Wednesday show every Wednesday. Is because, hey guys, look what I'm doing. I'm making some mistakes. Here's how I think you guys can learn from this too. Kind of that aspect. So I want to kind of demystify that word speculation, because that's one hell of a fucking roller coaster ride new members in the community over the last 3 years have taken. If the love of their book is determined based on the value, or if they're trying to open a business, that's one fucking hell of a roller coaster ride for everybody the last 3 years.
And it's really dangerous when you're not a flipper.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
sit on them. You sit on them, and then they drop in
If you're
value.
if you're not a flipper, because I myself, I don't sell comics. I've gone on the record to tell you I don't sell comics like a traditional person does. But if there's a book that's out there that I know either one I have or two I find for a very low value, I'll do my effort to flip it because I know what's the potential. You know, I joked around earlier and said that, Wolverine's costume. I got that book for $1.50, and then that following week it's going for $15, right? But that doesn't always happen. But I also know that that book in itself, after Deadpool's over, gonna go right back to that dollar bin.
Yo,
You know what I mean? There's certain things that you just know it's gonna happen.
I don't think everything is just a form of speculation either. Going and shopping at dollar bin isn't a speculation. That's your cheap ass. You're a bargain shopper. You're just hunting. You never know what you find because it's really intent, right? Like are you like the whole thing well, everyone hopes their books go up in value. Yeah, and I hope my house does too, and I hope my car does, and I hope taxes go down. Like everybody, you know what I mean? That's not the same thing as people buying. Like investing. I think of speculation, I think of investing, whether you're selling fast or selling later. Your goal eventually is for this book to become money at some point again, whether it be more than you paid or less than you paid. This book's ultimate end for you is to become money.
And you have to be smart about that.
That
you have to be smart of it.
There's nothing wrong with that. People do that in all kinds of hobbies and all kinds of different things. I think a lot of the negative connotation comes from the influx of terrible sellers that put a bad taste in your mouth. Nobody goes to these Comic-Cons and walks around at these professional speculators and flippers and says, "You're a piece of shit." And we don't do that. Those are the same people that you find on IG.
But hold on. I agree with you.
I could do it in 4 days. How's that?
I agree with you, Mark, but at the same time, there is that's happening. You see those signs all over the country in comic stores that says, speculators are killing the hobby. The books aren't priced. I'll price them when they get to the eBay because of how speculators are ruining the hobby.
Can go to hell. Yeah.
So
I mean,
and there's people that they're gonna con you, but that's the nature of any hobby.
Again,
you know what I mean?
That's the influx of sellers. Again, there's been a massive wave of people coming into this hobby that think comics are something that, like Izzy said, it's the Superman 75 again. A massive wave of people coming in or trying to figure it out, and they think because there's so many people telling them you're supposed to buy comics and sell them and you make your comics fund the hobby. That's fucking crazy. What else in life do you do that with? Do you do that with your food? Do you do that with your yard equipment? Do you sell lawnmowers to buy a new lawnmower? That's crazy. It's okay to just buy something that you enjoy, and that's it. You have a budget for it. You're responsible for it. It's fine. The fact that people think I have to buy this and sell this to fund the hobby, that's what's giving speculators a bad name, because people have been speculating comics for as long as they've been around almost. But it's like this new era of the accessibility of selling stuff is so easy. And so many people think that that's like the mentality of comics. It's not. That's
correct.
Part of it, but
it's always been there.
The bad sellers are outweighing the good sellers, and it's putting a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
It's outweighing everything. It's okay to speculate and buy and hold for your collection. That's how I really got onto doing a YouTube channel, was learning from the community and wanting to share my experiences. To do that is I am a speculator wholeheartedly, so that I am not overpaying if I don't have to overpay for the efficiency of my collection. So I'm not wasting dollars I'm trying to be more efficient in my collection and keeping the books that I'm keeping. And I did that stint. Where, yeah, you know what? Selling some of these books to help fund the hobby is going to be great. And I could make some space, and I still want to make some space. Don't get me wrong. And I did that stint for a year and a half. I got that call and that, are you interested? Do you want to be a part of Whatnot? Do you want to be a seller? But you know what? It's the only thing that's held me back is how incredibly time consuming eBay and everything else is. Whatnot seemed like the easy out to try. I tell you what, that's not for everybody. And no matter what they did and what they sold and the bill of sale that they told everybody, Whatnot is not there to build a community. Whatnot is there to find out who's dedicated to be a retailer, who's dedicated to be a distributor or whatever, and who's dedicated to be there to make them money. I heard that from the horse's mouth on the floor at a convention. They're here because they make us money. You don't fucking tell that to fans. You don't tell that to the 16-year-old kid that wants to see comic books or wants to see somebody who he's looking up to behind the camera, who he thinks is great because he's learned so much from. And there are people that look up to people on camera. You don't want to hear that shit. And I'm going out on a tizzy there. I did that and I tried that out. And I'm like, you know what, man? When the curtain's pulled back, shit ain't as real as it should. Or shit is very different than what you would think.
And for a lot of people are able to see that without having to be told that by someone else. A lot of people can see through the schemes, can see through the whatnot shenanigans and the people on the platform shenanigans. And those are the people that tend to get called out for being hate mongers at time too, when they can just kind of, some people are just intuitive to certain situations as well.
But I also want to add a caveat to that is that just because somebody's there on whatnot does not make them a bad seller either. I want to add that there's a lot of fantastic community members that are out there. That
great tool.
I mean, I use it to flip lawnmowers, and I've really done a great job in my community. I think it's really turned around.
Riding one yet? Have you?
I got my eyes on this John Deere. I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want anybody else to hunt for it.
Is it a special yellow edition John Deere?
I'm just saying that I bought that horse tail to mane and I was like, yeah, I really want to be a part of helping bridge the community and build that community. And after a year and a half, it's like that's not what the goal is here. It's another tool. It's another tool.
Yeah,
and if you want to be a full-time retailer, it's going to be a tool that'll be in your back pocket and it'll be useful. But for everybody that casually wants to move books, people are gravitating more towards eBay and other places because of the lack of drama, because of the simplicity of just people are getting back into trading. Now, to get back on kind of where you're at with the community, I'm not saying that whatnot or eBay or anything are inherently bad. There's just bad apples mixed in there, like some of you guys have said. So I guess this is a really good time to kind of talk about, do you guys have anything that you're interested in doing going forward? I know Bryan with his channel and some of the things he's doing, he's already made kind of bigger picture moves to do something from his perspective and what he can do as far as educated newcomers and people coming into the community. Do you guys have something that you're interested in? Not to steal IP, I for one will lead off to say that Bryan Wood, SimpleMan's Comics, has taken a definite hiatus from Comic News Weekly, kind of leaving us feeling like there's a bit of a hole in the channel. And in the Comic News Weekly on the Tuesday crew, I'm dedicated to making that a rotating spot and having somebody different every week in the community, like Alan next week, or Izzy coming on tonight, just happened to get into the big mix of things, and finding out all of the other people that have channels that want to be a part of this little portion of the community that we talk about every Tuesday. And then maybe McClay's portion, or maybe John's reading portion, or something. Maybe John finds a new D&D friend, John and JP. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that I know that I can do a little bit different, is kind of open that door and welcome more people in. And also, I want to do some more educational stuff with the channel. Well, how I feel the pluses and the minuses to speculating, and speculating to build your collection efficiently, that you're not, just because you're speculating doesn't necessarily make you a flipper kind of aspect or a retailer. But I mean, those are a couple of my ideas. I know you guys don't have to share ideas, but I know McClay's already working on stuff. I've got some ideas.
I'll tell you, my main goal is to take it back to collecting. It's to shift more towards the collecting aspect. I've talked about it quite a bit on my channel. You know, I want to start a new, you know, I haven't been collecting as much anymore. You know, I've kind of fell out of the collecting aspect. So I'm going to go find a new niche collecting aspect and jump on something new. It doesn't mean it has to be something that is going to make me money. It could be you know, I'm just buying it because I want to collect it and I want to have a collection, and then I, you know, move on to the next thing. So talking more about collecting, talking more about the things we grew up collecting, nostalgia, and then at the same time also, when you talked about educating, because we look at things from a collector's aspect for the most part. You know, I mean, yeah, some of us, you know, have worked in shops, are online retailers, but for the most part, the people that create content look at it from a collector aspect, and we really don't know what goes on in the industry that we love. So talking about, hey, what does it take to create a good Kickstarter, you know, crowdfunding effort? You know, what does it take to get your own books printed with, you know, foil stamp numbering systems on it? stuff like that to maybe help the people who are coming up in this, the entrepreneurs coming up in this, maybe change the hobby for the better, because I think over the last 3 years, the hobby has really shifted into doing things that aren't going to sustain the hobby. They're just going to cause more people to leave it. So figure out ways to fix that train is important to me. But at the same time, showing a love for the nostalgia, the thing we grew up with.
I agree with every word you just said.
Thank you,
Despite
brother.
having an urge to just disagree for argument's sake.
But to Brian's point with like Kickstarter, man, I did Kickstarter when it started, right? And now it's a lot different, and you have a lot of indie creators who are struggling because you have other people going into the platform that really don't need it, trying to take away their sales in a weird
Professional
way.
companies are kickstarting and crowdfunding now.
It's insanity. It's so, and I remember back in the day when Kickstarter started, because if you go back to Kickstarter, you'll find a video with a young Izzy doing, trying to promote his little comic book group. But
I'd be afraid to watch that.
What was that?
I'd be afraid to watch that.
Well, you got to see the graphics on that baby. But the truth is that for me, what I wanted to do is I wanted to get to the terminologies that people like, words like FOMO and what they mean, because people hear a lot of these terms that we say, spec, FOMO, and especially new people, and they don't know what we're talking about, right? That's something that's always been something I've always wanted to do, but time always gets in the way.
The Thor's Thursdays with Izzyverse. Yeah, that's a good video series. The Thor's Thursdays with Izzyverse.
So part of it, and to be completely honest with you guys, when I created the channel and I called it Izzyverse, for me it was really it's a multiverse of things. It's not just about collecting comics. It's about creating comics. It's about reading comics. It's about everything that's part of this community, because we're a large community, but sometimes we just focus on one aspect of the community. You know what I mean? And not all the aspects.
Yeah, that's actually huge. That's really huge. The fact that you did Izzyverse, I like that, because one of the most important things that we have in our back pocket that we don't really pay enough attention to is that every person in the community is a different personality with a different set of core beliefs or core personality. And that diversity in the community grows the community, gives us different perspective. When we sit down and we realize it's okay to disagree, let's talk it out and walk through it. It's not about being right. It's not about one person being better than the other. I know that when I sit down and I disagree with somebody, John or anybody over the past years, and I've not agreed with them, but I've heard them out, I've always fucking learned something. I've always walked away learning something. It's not about being right. It's not about changing my life. Some things are profound and amazing that do change my life, but more importantly, when I disagree with somebody and I hear them out, I learn something and I walk away a better person because of that.
That's super
This is
important.
getting me fired up. This is the conversation that I really wanted to dig into, even though we're running a little bit late and a little bit long. This is what I really wanted to dig into. That's why I try to remember to end a lot of my shows with telling people to stay original and take care of each other. We're literally all we have. Because if we don't stay original to each other and we all fall in line and we all create the same content and we are all the same people, the community will never grow, never prosper, and comics will die forever. Collecting would die for, well, I don't know. There's a lot of hoarders out there that collect the weirdest stuff. But if we don't stay original to who we are, what's the point?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of great comments, and one particularly that I wanted to highlight was, "I'm here for the lawnmowers."
Come on, tell us about that exclusive.
Hey, when's that
John Deere?
stream start, John? I wanna jump on that one.
check out my Whatnot stream Thursdays.
I'm telling you, there was another comment. I think Tony Fix popped in and said, "Just wait until eBay Live really kicks into gear." And I honestly think if eBay doesn't buy Whatnot, if Whatnot stays independent or somebody else buys it, Whatnot's going to be the QVC of the future. The mobile QVC, the mobile buy anything 24 hours a day,
True.
Whatever you want with instant payment. That's not necessarily a bad thing for Whatnot. That's just a diverging into something that's going to make them bigger over time. I think. Well,
yeah, Whatnot is not just comics.
No, Whatnot started as Funko Pops.
Yeah,
Starting a comic arm was barely a blip on Whatnot's radar in its 10, 20 years when it gets to wherever they're like the comics thing could be completely dead and gone on whatnot, and it'll still be its own thing.
What about, is it kind of similar to that app like Let Go or Offer Up? Because that app Let Go has been around since before Whatnot, isn't it? Kind of
Well,
essentially
Let
the
Go's
same thing?
more local stuff.
It's
than-
like
Already?
Craigslist, right?
Kind of like
Craigslist,
yeah,
Facebook.
Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, something like that.
This is a really good case in point here that I wanted to talk about a little bit too, is we were all really good about this way back in the day at the very beginning when it was easy. YouTube, you could click the 3 buttons, go to channel, subscribe, help build the community. Whether somebody was putting out content or not, they were building out and networking with a group of friends or a group of like-minded people or diverse people that they didn't agree with that they could debate with. YouTube took that away from us unless you're a moderator. If you're a moderator, you can still click and go to channel. But more importantly, the vast portion of the community cannot do that. Glenn Smith, can a wrench post links for panel channels, please? We used to be fucking religiously good at that and building the community and sharing that. And it's been very difficult to remember to get back to there and do it in a healthy fashion. Glenn Smith has here religiously every week on this channel. Why I didn't make him a moderator months ago is beyond me. He is now a moderator. He's not on the panel every week. He's welcome to pop into the panel if he wants to, or she, if Glenn is a she. I don't know. Don't let me assume too much. But being here as often as this person is deserves a wrench so that they can share channel links. They can share Alan, the Comic Viking, and share what he's got going on in Izzyverse and everybody, because they're an incredibly important part of the community that helps build the community. Just because they're not on the panel doesn't mean they don't deserve the spotlight. I just went out of tizzy again. That was just Glenn. That was, you were, hopefully those bus tires don't hurt because you were there and it was convenient at the moment. But we used to be really good at that. We used to spend half an hour and just talk about building the community. And I'm sure there are channels out there. I'm sure there are other people that do it. McClay,
I'll tell you what's super important to me, and that I think a lot of people need to realize is social media is such a big part of our lives, and such a big part of social media is text. And I think people need to always, when they're reading text from somebody, realize that you're probably not reading it in the emotion or the way that the original person intended. If you have a problem with somebody, reach out to them and say, hey, maybe I don't understand this. There's so many people out there that fly off the handle on social media over something that they're totally misunderstanding. And I think that's a huge problem. I think so many people today in this community are quick to immediately throw shade on some social media and rather than reaching out to the person. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm very big on calling people on the phone if I need to, man. If somebody's got a problem or something, hey, let me get a hold of that person some way, or see him on StreamYard so we can realize that we're humans. Too many of us don't realize that we're humans anymore, and that we need to see each other or hear each other to say, hey, I'm not coming at you sideways right now. You don't need to come at me sideways type deal. So I think that's very important.
Agreed. Alan, man, where do you kind of sit with the tools that are available to collectors now with accessing comic books, having access to comic books and collectibles, and potentially selling them if they decide to do that?
I think it just needs, if you don't want to sell and you just want to buy, just make sure you're smart about it. Especially if you're new. I mean, I was not. I got in at the beginning on Whatnot, and I went bananas. Let's just put it that way. I went bananas. I bought some stuff I shouldn't have, but I've came out of it okay, I guess you could say. But it's I mean, it was if you go back to my early videos, I mean, it was just like every single week I'm putting a video out. I got a Whatnot package. Just be smart. Be smart with your collecting, and buy what you like. It doesn't matter if nobody else is reading it. It doesn't matter if you like it. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with the buy what you love and you love what you buy, no matter how many people out there might disagree with that. Like I heard a comment on a show actually just a month or two ago that was retorting there's no wrong way to collect comic books. And this person kind of went on to say there's definitely a wrong way to buy comic books, because if you overspend comic books and they're worth nothing later, then that was the wrong way to do that. Well, I'm going to again go back and say there is no wrong way to collect comic books. That's just a life lesson, because you can say the same damn thing about a new car, a new house, other things that lawnmowers. That's a life lesson. That's not necessarily comic book related, but
and that's also so specific to investing and selling. Like, what if someone's just reading? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, there's no wrong way to read books, man. It's reading. Reading.
Oh no, I overpaid on this book. I really enjoyed reading. Oh, no.
except for manga, because you got to read it backwards.
I will never get the money back on something I was never going to sell. Oh no.
Exactly. Oh no. It's that culture of needing to sell the fun, make the hobby fun,
or not even needing to sell it, just hoping and thinking that were I one day to perchance sell this book, I'd make a profit.
I'm so guilty of that. Not even profit, but not losing a ton of money.
Yeah. So when I started collecting comics,
people, like, if you're selling a book, selling it is selling it. You're negative money. So anything you get for it is back to the good. You know what I'm saying? Plus, you read the book. You know what I'm saying? I'm not telling you to give books away, but keep in mind, if you are someone in the chat and you sell books, you don't have to get what you think for it. It's really that simple.
Yeah. When I started collecting comics, you know what I did? I read them. And you know what I did? I put them in a box.
You read them?
And then, I read them. I put them in a box, and they stood in that box until I took them out of the box and put them into a new box.
A new box?
I bet you put it in
a longer box.
No, I had long boxes, and then I made them short boxes because I hate them. I hate long boxes. I hate them.
You just hate picking them up?
They're heavy.
Pro level. My entire collection is short boxes. I won't.
You know what's bad collecting comic books when you buy a lot of long boxes and then carrying them, because those suckers weigh. But the truth, but being honest,
too, you're moving more at once, Izzy.
Oh man, yeah, but it's heavy as hell, man. And those boxes will eventually break off. No, but being serious is, if you're in the comic book community and you are wanting getting into as an investment, then you have to do your research if you coming in as an investor. If you want to come in as a reader, then read what you like. Start with a book a character you either like or a character that you just want to know more about, and then move from there. There are different ways of getting into the comic book industry. That's the approach I say. Figure out if you want to be part of the industry, figure out what you want to do with it, and then do that. Investing is. What was that?
If you're actually someone who's serious about wanting to get into comics for investing, it really wouldn't be difficult at all. It's super simple. You would never look at a modern book in your life. You would only go look at blue chip books, which the data and sales stuff is readily available for the most newest of the new.
Collect cover price.
No, not even that. Like eBay, eBay and whatnot.
Yeah,
and
that's what people with money do.
Google searches would give you the actual sales data for real books that are investment things. That's the crazy part.
It's funny at first, but who do you think was buying all those books over the last 3 years for record prices? Music artists, sports stars, Nicolas Cage, maybe race car drivers.
But yeah.
No, I know you're not, but that's why I'm laughing.
the mini Bitcoin millionaires that don't have enough to fully retire for their whole life, but don't owe anything because they're debt free. Any extra money they had from let's be honest, there's a lot of Bitcoin people out there that are Bitcoin rich still.
Oh, and I have to say one thing, because we have not spoken about this subject matter at all. Don't buy a slab just because it's in a slab.
What? Why?
In other words, people buy slabs thinking that the slab is worth it.
Oh yeah, like you take a random new comic book day Wednesday book that you can buy in a slab for $40 to $50 from a pre-seller, or what do you call that? Order retailer. In advance. Hot Shot Comics, with all the shit that's been going on there, they built their business around grading and pre-selling books like that. Yeah, don't buy. You're right. I'm
gonna bounce out. I'm gonna bounce out because we're getting into a whole new layer here.
Yeah, that's it.
This is actually a good time to say bye to John, address a couple of comments, and move into new comic book day.
He has to put the kids to bed.
I'm about to dip out too, because it's like 11 o'clock here on this coast. We'll work tomorrow. Y'all, it was fantastic seeing you guys. Brian, I'm subscribed to you. I look forward to arguing with you later. All in good
Hell
faith.
yeah.
We're gonna show
Hell
these
yeah,
chumps
brother.
how to properly argue, my friend.
Yeah.
Andy, I love you. Alan,
Love you, bro. We'll talk soon, bro.
Izzy, I'll take it easy.
And Chad, that's just where I was kind of saying that's a life lesson. It's just kind of a life lesson. This last 3 years has been an oddity in the comic book community. There's lots of great comments, but yeah. Speaking of comics, what's tomorrow got on our plate? It's new comic book day, right?
It
Nothing
is.
for
It's
me.
a lot of crazy stuff coming out.
I actually consider it being a light week for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I only got 3 books this week, and they were all DC. And one of them I actually just took off my pull list. So
So I picked up 8 books.
Oh,
But
wow.
that's light for me. Andy knows. Andy knows
Yeah,
how
that's
much
kinda
I
light
pick
for you.
up. That's light for me. But that's a good example, right? So for that's a good example. It's like it's light week for me because I look at it and I say to myself, okay, is this a must-need book? There was books that I said I'm passing because I figured, you know what, I could probably get that next week.
Yeah. Well, I like
Or
this
both
Red
tomorrow.
Room. This Red Room Crypto Killers #4. I like the Jim Rugg covers. I love the Jim Rugg covers.
Mhm.
So I'll be picking this up. This is the 1 in 10 cover C.
That
For
cover has a
that.
lot to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. So this is Eddie P and Jim Rugg's Red Room, which has just been great. I love their podcast, Cartoonist Kayfabe. Also check it out. X-Men #26 is coming out. There's a great Mark Brooks corner box variant. And I love the little tidbit about it. It says, we're not losing an X-Man, we're gaining an Avenger. The moment we swore would never happen, the moment Emmett Frost swore would never happen, is here as Frost Stark knot is tied in Invincible Iron Man #10. Emma's mutant family reacts to this surprise news. And I've always been a fan of Emma Frost, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's got some really good covers. You got the Alex Ross connecting variant.
Yeah, that's the one I want to get.
Ooh.
But that's a good example of a cover buy. I want to get that because it's a cool homage.
Yeah, very cool. And then of course you got everything else. I really like the 60th anniversary Merlina too. I think that's a cool cover. I hate these new ads that they do. What else? We have this Spider-Gwen annual #1, and this is a killer. Is it Sowie variants? Sowie, I think that's how they say it. But just beautiful. Looks like a Rian Gonzalez kind of, but this will be a hit cover buy right here.
Yeah, anything anime with a lead character seems to just hold up.
Yeah. That's a great cover.
That's gonna probably be one of those covers. Well, talking about spec, right? You have a popular character, 1 in Spider-Gwen. She's extremely popular, and 2, she's done it in a manga style, which that was nice.
Wow, is that?
I think this is an exclusive, a retailer exclusive.
I'm trying to think who the artist is on that.
This is Ji Hung Lee right here.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. And then this is Ji Hung Lee too.
Yeah, that one
I
hear a lot of
that's
stuff
Ji
about.
Hung Lee. This one is not Ji Hung Lee. This is Shannon Mayer.
Okay,
Comics.
That's the artist I was trying to think of.
KRS, Eastside, Mutant Beaver, ComicMan.
Oh, so it's a huge collaboration.
Well, that's, to be honest, most retailer exclusives are collaborations now. Very few of them
they're starting to
one.
do a lot. Yeah, you're starting to see 3 companies working together.
Yeah.
Which I like. I do like that.
It's smart in the end. They don't put themselves out there for as much. Shout out to Swag
Mickey.
Sanity Rise of the Cult #1.
I read it. I bought several copies, kept one for myself, and read it, and really enjoyed it. And I gave 2 away in the last giveaway thing that we were doing.
Yeah, this is very, very cool.
He said he's got
Great
issue 2.
cover.
Issue 2 is done, and they're working on finishing issue 3.
There we go. Silver Surfer. It's got the great JTC.
I got my copy. I got my copy of it. Love it. Gorgeous.
And then there's a couple other good ones. There's Frank
That's
Miller.
a Frank Miller.
Yeah. This Ryan Brown though is nice too. Beautiful. And then another Frank Miller trade dress.
See, that's a Frank Miller. Like, we talked a lot about Frank Miller's artwork lately. That was not bad.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I like it.
Especially since Frank Miller's notorious for doing a lot of, darks, negative space stuff. That's completely different from what you normally see.
Yeah.
I think he was having fun with this one.
I agree.
Where the other ones was like, just getting paid.
Batman 137's got the Lobos Hispanic Heritage Month Bane cover, and I'll tell you what, Lobos's covers have gotten 100% better with his backgrounds. He needs to keep putting backgrounds on. I mean, look, this is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
and I think that his art just it pops so much more when there's a background like this behind it.
Well, when Lobo in particular. One of my favorite Lobo covers is the Mary Jane Venom cover, which I think it's very Adam Hughes like in the way it looks. What I like about this one, it doesn't resemble any other artist to me, but what I like about it is that it's actually, you could, based on the way he's drawing, how Venom is affecting Bane. Normally people just draw Bane and he's just a big dude.
Yeah.
Here, you could kind of tell the Venom is actually affecting him because the muscles look abnormal.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like he's actually on steroids.
The veins, yeah.
Yeah. So that's attention to detail to me.
Dell'Otto cardstock.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad Dell'Otto. It's actually a better Dell'Otto. This is the Art Besh. What are they? Chibi variants that she's doing.
She's doing a few of them. I saw a Catwoman one she did too. That was nice.
1 in 50 Casada. But yeah, I really like the Bane. Lobos is just such an amazing artist. This is interesting. This is a new book, this Crusader from Mad Cave. And I just love this cover. I don't know much about the book. It says a Templar knight finds himself transported to a dangerous realm known as Beastlands, with sinister entities known as the Masters hunting him down. All he has is his sword and a weird goblin-like creature named Grimble to guide him through a strange world. This sounds great to me. I'm a huge historical a fan of history from like the 1200s up to like the 1600s, and I'm a big fan of the Knights Templar, and I think it's really cool how you have this big huge Templar cross behind them, and it's a perfect image of a Templar knight. It's just great cover.
I might have to pick that up.
Yeah, it looks interesting. Dwellings number 6. This is the non-reprint version. This is the Black Eye Studios or Black Eye Books, which Jay Stevens puts out his own through Kickstarter. So this is on the list this week. I don't know if he's sending them out this week or what, but these are the originals, and people are going to start really keying in on the originals over the next couple months, I imagine, because they're getting harder and harder to find. Great little series by Jay Stevens, and the third print for number 1's coming out. So, if you guys want to see that, let's see here. Oh, wrong one, wrong Dwellings. So there's 2 different Dwellings. Like I said, there's Black Eye Books, and then there's Oni, and the Oni one is
at all.
Yeah.
So the Black Eye Books are the ones that he's producing, while the Onis are the
reprints. Yep. So this is amazing to me, but it's also an amazing mess up by Marvel. I don't know how they messed this up so bad. This is a great cover. Just a beautiful cover. The trade dress looks good, but look at the trade dress for next issue. This is a Frank Miller, and I'm not a big fan of. I mean, it's not a bad image. It's not terrible. It's not good. But look how beautiful the trade dress looks with that fire type. Like, why aren't you putting that on the other one too? Like this,
and the one that you just showed, because it would look a lot so much better, because it looks like the Fantastic Four on the Miller cover is like transparent. You can see through it.
A lot easier to read.
Not.
Yeah.
Well, I bet this one has a virgin.
Oh yeah, let's see. I
Yeah,
doubt it.
it's
Nope.
no, it'll
This
happen.
is
Second
It'll
print
happen.
version, it'll happen.
yeah.
It-
There's
Take
a really
time.
good Greg Land 1 in 25 thing,
okay.
and then that's the Lorenzo or the Lozano variant. So
And that's still Human Torch because
yeah,
for some reason it doesn't really look like
Ooh.
Human Torch.
yeah. This is a beautiful Clayton Crane Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance #1 or Omega #1.
Telling you,
Clayton Crane.
anything Ghost Rider the last like 6 months has always been a phenomenal cover. It seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least had
Covers. Listen. Despite bitching or not bitching, but despite complaining about the hobby lately and this and that, one thing I will say, it really feels like the big publishers, Marvel and DC, are finally starting to figure out what the consumer wants for covers, because covers over the next couple months are some of the best covers, and the way they choose the ratios, and it's just amazing. They're the artists that are coming out and the covers that they're choosing have just been unreal.
Well,
And Ghost Rider's one of them.
I've always been a Clayton Crane fan, and I'm so glad he's not just doing Venom. I mean,
Yes.
look at this. I mean, the books he's selling on his website, they are so well done. And this is another one. I'm going to pick this up just because
early in his career,
Crane covers.
Early in his career, he did a lot of Ghost Riders. So if you look up his Ghost Riders, he knows how to draw Ghost Rider. You know what I mean? And that's one of his signature characters to draw. So he even has he has a great miniseries, a Ghost Rider miniseries that he's drawing the interiors for. Ooh. Go check that out. It is gorgeous. I should know because I just saw it. Because I'm busy, doing my books, organizing them.
So good. Benjamin Piercy writing. Oh, this is going to be a good one. So looking forward to it. Hunt for the Skinwalker from Boom Studios. Yeah. Funny story about this. I have a podcast that I do with my best friend called the Bogcast, where we just joke around and act like goofballs and talk about UFOs and cannabis and make each other laugh. And we brought on my friend Dinesh Shamsadani from Bad Idea. And he dropped a nugget on us that I couldn't believe. We have a UFO report on there. We bring up the UFO report. We're getting ready to talk about George Knapp. And Dinesh says, you know what? I know George Knapp. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, I was a producer. We were trying to produce their Skinwalker book. I go, are you kidding me? And he goes, yeah, what was George's name, friend's name that wrote the book? I go, Colm Kelleher. He's like, you know those guys? I go, I am the biggest fan of George Knapp. I read The Hunt for the Skinwalker, the initial book with George Knapp and Colm Kelleher, and I feel like History Channel has ruined everything about Hunt for the Skinwalker and what that original book was. And Dinesh was originally supposed to produce a movie based on the Hunt for the Skinwalker book, and here we go. We have Boom Studios putting out a comic based on the Hunt for the Skinwalker. So, and it is about the book now working hand in hand with Kelleher and Knapp and incorporating never before seen revelations in the adapts the category defying tale in a series perfect for fans of I Hate This Place and the Low Woods. So big news for me right here.
I saw that and immediately said, that's right up McClay's alley. I'm picking that up just because I know you're going to read it, and it's going to make me want to read it so we can kind of water cooler talk it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. The Joker, the man who stopped laughing, number 10. This is the Federici variant, and Riccardo Federici is amazing.
He is.
Whoa.
Joker, that book. Here's a good example of a comic that I rarely read, but I seem to buy every issue.
Yeah. Look how good the covers are. I mean,
look at that.
That is amazing.
I have yet to see a Joker book from this run that has had a bad cover.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and it's a great. They're great little stories too, which is a good thing. I mean, just beautiful. Let's see what we got coming up cover-wise. Otto Schmidt. That's interesting.
That's a
This
very
is,
interesting take on Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a vampire looking. Oh, that one's nice.
Like you said, this is Christian Ward. They're all good.
Yeah.
They're all really, really good covers so far. This is the A cover for number 11. They're going to do a Virgin.
Cover.
Yeah, this is Ben Olivier. No, is this Olivier or Matina? That looks like Matina. Is that the same one we just saw?
It says Ben Oliver, actually.
This is beautiful right here. Marco Maestrazzo. Look at that.
You know what I think it is? I think most people love drawing Joker, and that's what I think. That's why we get these phenomenal. He's just a phenomenal character to draw.
Yeah, Ryan
Look
Brown.
Look at that, man. It's
this is
awesome.
the 1 in 25 for 11 that's coming out.
I mean, with that one you just had with him having the Batman on his lap, it just looks like the artist had fun with that drawing. He just had fun with it.
Almost looks like a little bit of Johnny Depp from Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the thing with Joker, he's one of those characters that you could draw him any different way, and it's not wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different versions of him, and it's
the same cover.
Oh,
the same cover.
That's good and creepy.
So it says here that it's Matina, right? Francisco Matina, cover B, and then you go to the next one, and they have a cover B,
and it says Ben Oliver.
Ben Oliver.
Version. Yeah,
I think they messed up.
League of Comic Geeks sometimes mixes some stuff up for sure.
Yeah. My Little Pony. You got these are, for some reason, man, speculators just make money off My Little Pony books on some of the 1 in 10s.
That's a following. That's all that is. That's just all about a following.
A cult following.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So just
bronies are real.
So there you go. And then anything else that you guys there's Star Wars, right?
Yeah, there's that, but also Tear Us Apart, a new indie title. I think that was Image. Maybe it was Boom.
Immortal X-Men's coming out too. Tear Us Apart.
It's an all-white cover with a bloody set of hands making a heart on the front.
Oh yeah, right here.
There you go.
So
it's Dark Horse. The premise behind this sounds interesting to me as an indie fan.
Jay Baruchel is writing this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's deep in the Canadian wilderness, a vicious cult dedicated to an ideology of pain trains children to become deadly assassins. In the midst of this world of cruelty, 2 teenagers break the cardinal rule by falling in love. The only thing standing between them and happily ever after is an army of murderers with a taste for blood.
It could be a fun 6 to 12 issue series.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of Star Wars, like you said. I mean, we're in the midst of the Clone Wars and 15th anniversary of the Clone Wars, so that Ahsoka cover's coming out, I think, next month or the end of this month.
I love the connecting droids variants.
This was a great opportunity with the releases of Ahsoka to put Chopper on one of these droid covers, and Chopper is fucking nowhere to be found, and kind of sad about that.
This might be one of the best Star Wars covers I've seen in a long time, man. Damn, that's good. E.M. Gist continuing to kill it. And then the 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, there's kind of confusing because Star Wars 38, and then here you go Dark Droids number 2.
I thought that cover was awesome.
Yeah, phenomenal, beautiful. Linnell Francis,
book, but it's just a nice cover.
It's a good story. I like it. I like the idea behind the virus and how it turns their eyes purple whenever they've been taken over, and I like the tie-in they had with Vader, how the virus was coming after Vader. This is the 1 in 100. And then this is the 1 in 50. Look at that. Wow. They messed it up by this.
Yeah.
This shouldn't have been.
That should have been gold all the way up.
Yep. And then the connecting cover and then the action figure. So, wow.
Well, I actually like that one. It feels like a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Looks like a novel, doesn't it? The
Looks
way
like
they made
a
it.
novel, yeah.
Beautiful. So that's a really good story, Dark Droids, for all the Star Wars fans out there.
Yeah, find my number 1 and reread it for tomorrow.
Yeah. What else?
So somebody noticed that said that Poison Ivy 14 has a first appearance in it and has a lot of great covers.
So
Poison
Poison Ivy has a special type of cover that's coming out. It's supposed to be like a glow in the that cover is supposed to be a glow in the dark type cover, but it's also a black light color.
Ooh,
Beautiful.
But
So
it serves two purposes.
One of the guys, stay on that Nakayama cover real quick. One of the guys at the store didn't know about David Nakayama, and Mark pointed out that like whenever he draws a woman, no matter if it's a side view, front view, back view, there's always thigh gap.
Well, that's how you draw a woman.
is.
That's how you have to
There
draw. To be honest, that's how you draw a woman.
I understand that, but this guy was just floored. Then he looked at 2 or 3 other Nakayama covers and was like, "Look, there it is.
Well,
there it is.
well,
there it is."
I will say his gap is a little wider than normal.
That's beautiful too.
Oh, wow.
Poison Ivy is like Ghost Rider for DC. It's hard to have a bad Poison Ivy cover.
Yeah. Even that one cover that was like a painted cover that was just like it's just like art. It was just pure art. And she's like this little in the image.
Yeah. Here's the reactive glow in the dark, UV reactive glow in the dark.
Ooh.
And this is beautiful. Look at 1 in 25 Surge Akuna. Holy cow.
Oh, wow.
Like, again, DC has been killing it cover-wise. Here's 1 in 50 Nakayama. This is way better than the other one.
There's another. There's the gap.
See,
It's the same picture.
It's just a different color gap. Beautiful.
I actually like that one a little more because I see more.
Yeah. I wonder what's coming up. Let's take a look at what's coming up. This looks interesting. Mushrooms. Gotta buy it. Oh, man.
Oh, there you go.
That's a Nakayama without a gap.
That's true.
Beautiful.
Wow, that's a Nakayama. Oh, it's Sotomaki.
Brian's like, oh my God, I'm
Sozamaika,
buying
yeah.
that.
Oh my goodness.
God. Yeah, it's gonna be on my next thumb. All these, Jesus, look at these. Seb McKinnon again, and then there's a 1 in 50 that they're not showing. Jeez, and then here's the Chrissy Zulo is doing all these trick or treat covers, and they're great, dude.
They're great cover.
Yeah, so man, like I said, covers over the next couple months are just beyond amazing.
Feels like that summer lull's coming to an end, right?
Yes, it is. Thank God. Thank God. So big week.
Yeah. Dark Droids, I'm looking forward to that, like you said. And then those 2 indies that are coming up. And then, God, yeah, I got to get into more DC. Mm-hmm. Well, that's New Comic Book Day, which McClay leaves us with
one more thing.
What you got, brother?
If you guys get a chance, go to Beyond Wednesdays. I dropped a new pilot episode of a series I'm doing about comics, and I was lucky enough to get some friends to help me out and jump on, and that is what I've got going on. Let me go ahead and share my screen here.
Just threw your link in the chat.
There we go. So shout out to this is what I got going. I'll just play the intro real quick.
The top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
Hey, what's going on? Jesse James Comics. I started in comics January 25th, 1982 at the Friendly Neighborhood Comic Book Store in Las Vegas, celebrating 41 years of awesome comic book collecting.
Big Clutch, former SVP of BizDev over at Skybound, lifelong comic fan, and right now I'm just kind of a freelance guy out here doing some live shows and some content. So thanks for having me on.
Hi, I'm Matt Nelson, huge comic book fan my whole life. I love everything about comics. I'm the president of CGC, and it is a thrill to be here on the show.
So basically, what the plan of the show is to get a roundtable of 3 to 4 people that are professionals in the industry that make money in the industry of comics, whether it's a brick and mortar shop owner, a retail owner, a publisher, a creator, somebody that works in advertising, that works in the industry. Because like I said, we come from the collector's angle, and it spends more time writing the wrongs of us trying to think we know what we're talking about. And it's a lot of fun. So it is pre-recorded and edited. It's a little bit different from my live stuff that I usually do. But yeah, we'll be doing these probably at least 2 a month over the next 6 months until we get to a point where we can do once a week. But nothing but industry professionals talking about working in the industry. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Go check it out. First pilot episode dropped this morning.
Bro, that's killer, man. That's
That
big.
is.
That's big picture community level.
Yeah, thank you, man. I'm looking forward to it. I got some big hitters on the horizon, and I think it's going to blow a lot of people away. That some of the people that we're going to be seeing on that show, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I did kind of find that funny that out of everybody out there, Matt was the one with the least office looking environment. You know what I mean?
He's encased.
He was probably in his guest room at his house. That's probably what it was.
Yeah, it probably was.
Alan, brother, man, what do you got? What's up? What's one more thing from your action?
On our channel, I drop a weekly video with Beckerman. That's about it right now. Our live streams have pretty much ceased. I mean, just life happens, So, and I got a small channel, and when it starts becoming work, it's gonna stop because it has to be fun for me to do it. So that's what we're doing. We just do it for fun. But I got an idea from this live stream. I have an idea, and I think I'm going to run with it. I got to check with Beckerman, and I think I think about the next live idea.
Okay.
Throw this spaghetti to the wall, see if it sticks.
There you go, man. We just dropped your link in the chat for anybody that's not subscribed. Please subscribe to Alan over the Comic Viking and check out him and Beckerman. I had a fun time over there talking. God, what title were we reading? The Last of Us.
The Last
talked about Last of Us.
So good.
Yep. Well, we really appreciate you making time for us tonight and hanging out for 2.5 hours, and not watching Ahsoka tonight.
I gotta wake up at 5:30.
Oh God, yeah. So we're gonna segue on over to Izzyverse, man. What you got?
So as far as the weekend goes, it's gonna be a big weekend. We're going to Baltimore. So I'll be in Baltimore Comic Con this weekend. So I'm gonna drop as much content as I could possibly drop. I'll be talking to indie creators. We'll see who's out there. There'll be a lot of stuff, and of course, Monday is the Monday poll list, or part of the Monday night lineup, the weekly poll list, where me and Josh we talk about the trending books and what's coming up as well. And yeah, it's a speculation show, so nominate it. But the fact of the matter, we're just looking at key collectors and seeing what they call speculation, and what we do our best to kind of educate as many, like you talked about, educate people on whether or not if it's really worth it or not based on what we see and trends and things like that. So, a lot of Dazzler.
Well, real quick, you brought up something that might be breaking here first. We'll see, but we may see some Beyond Wednesdays and Key Collector app in the future. We'll see. We'll have to keep you guys updated on that.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Teaser.
That is quite the tease. Got me wondering now.
Yeah, and of course at the same time I'll be doing some more sketchy videos where I'm just doing a sketch and throw some shorts in there. So got to get my votes in for community artists. So if you haven't really gone to the CBCA awards, I've been nominated for 2, both for the spec as for community artists. So I'll do what I can.
Hell yeah!
But go check everybody out, man. It's a good list.
My one more thing tonight is thank you again, everybody. Great panel, long extended running show tonight. I don't think long format content is dead by any means. I think it just depends on what you're talking about and your timing and anybody that wants to be a part of it. And that's I think you guys helped make this special tonight and help share a few things.
Thank you for including us.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate you guys. And my one more thing, not only of that, is tying into Comics Curing Cancer next month. this channel. As soon as I can remember to send a message to Rob and those guys to get the graphics and get the other stuff, we're going to be donating our time and also sending a big box of stuff for Comics Curing Cancer that's coming up, because #FuckCancer. And yeah.
We'll be getting some stuff in Baltimore. Definitely plan to get some stuff in Baltimore.
I'm going to miss you guys in Baltimore. We can't make it this weekend, but that doesn't mean we won't be there again another time. Yeah, it's
fun, man.
Another fantastic Tuesday in the books. Thank you again, everybody. And everybody knows how we're going to do this, right? I'm going to go peace out. I'm going to go pinkies out. I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side for the next one. Remember the most important part, Alan. What is it?
Have fun.
Stay original. And take care of each other, because we're all we have. Have a good night, everybody.
Double up, double up, double up. The money I color, color. Excuse me while I change. The holler boogie has made me sweaty. Yeah, sweaty.